whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Haslinda Amin in Bangkok. This is Bloomberg. Making money isn't about drowning in emotions. It's about understanding what's actually happening. Markets are the best way to glean signal from noise, and that is what we try to do every morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Technology is embedded in every aspect of our lives.
And laying the foundation for the future.
From finance to defense, AI to entertainment.
And from the road to the stars. Bloomberg brings you the latest stories of the people and companies pushing the tech sector to new frontiers.
And the politics that shape global tech markets.
I'm Caroline Hyde in New York.
And I'm Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
Watch Bloomberg Tech every weekday.
Only on Bloomberg Television.
Middle East and Africa, vibrant resources and high-yield investment opportunities abound. Join me on Horizons Middle East and Africa for the stories, newsmakers, and insights from this exciting region. Now weekdays, only on Bloomberg.
A check on futures ahead of the opening bell. We're looking at red arrows that kicked off the month after the government shutdown at midnight. S&P futures down about 0.4%. NASDAQ and Russell futures also right there. Still with me is Sydney's head of U.S. equity trading strategy, Stuart Kaiser. And Stuart, okay, we've got red arrows for today, but in general, it feels like we've had more and more IPOs as I get closer to the bell. That's what I think about. And yesterday, Jefferies said M&A is back. So are you optimistic?
We're optimistic, fingers crossed a bit. I mean, M&A at the beginning of the year was such a popular, kind of investment theme. You could argue that corporate America and a lot of the capital markets kind of got shut down for 3 or 4 months, just given the tariff uncertainty around the tax and spending bill, and even immigration to some extent. So we've kind of put it out there as the sneaky bull case would be that corporate America begins to re-engage in the fourth quarter after kind of hibernating for 3 or 4 months. And that would be reflected in M&A and IPOs, but also potentially hiring and CapEx spending. As you know, a lot of these budgets are set at the end of the year. So, some of that headcount, that CapEx might need to be done well. So, yeah, we're optimistic. And I think if you want to be bullish equity markets, you almost have to rely on the idea that corporate America is going to kind of come back a little bit here at the year end.
All right, Stuart, we're going to keep you with us through the opening bell. Stuart Kaiser from Citi is staying with me. Futures are down after a government shutdown, now in place for 9.5 hours. This is Bloomberg.
I think people are paying attention now to what we're doing in a way that wasn't happening 5 years ago. I think the convergence, not just of the hardware investments, but the AI investments in particular, have been the real watershed for us in helping people understand why we've always believed having these devices be wearable and having sensors and having context in the world around you has been so important. And it's like, oh yeah, of course, now that you realize there's going to be a potentially super intelligent assistant that's operating there, you want it to have, for free, all the context on what you've heard, what you've seen, what you're doing, so it can help you the most out as you go about your day and try to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
Right now?
So I feel a lot of dedication in that.
As many people as possible, certainly from the apartments that adjoin the area that will, starting there, which is going to take some time. I don't know what it is, 17 stories of the building, is that correct?
It's about 20. Yeah.
20. I haven't counted them, but that's a large enough section of the building to evacuate. It takes time. Whether the elevators are operating in the building, I don't know. Many of the people in these buildings have physical disabilities. It's difficult to get them out quickly. So the commanders on the scene make this evaluation as necessary. And we certainly get the personnel. New York has the, I would say, luxury of having a very large fire department, a very large police department with great resources that can put a very large number of people on the scene in a very short time.
Yeah, what we're hearing is that the people in the building are being sent to a community center at 138th Street and Alexander Avenue. As the building is being evacuated, also, as we mentioned, the FDNY, NYPD, NYC Buildings Department, Department of Environmental Protection, all there. And apparently there is a collapsed underground water main also reported as a result of this explosion. And I guess they're looking into that as well.
Before we let you go,
Sure.
yeah, I was going to say, before we let you go, look, we don't want to read too much into it because we're just seeing a picture from Sky Fox. But that area that we're looking at right now, before, there were tons of firefighters there. We also saw search dogs there. It appears that right now, all of the firefighters and the search dogs are gone from that area. Can we extrapolate from that? That means that area has been cleared for looking for anybody who might be in the rubble, or is that too much to read into it?
I think what it means is we have not gotten reports that there are people trapped there. There's no, nothing imminent that, there's 5 people. We know that they're in there. We have to look for them right away. I think what it means is let's wait and see if the structural integrity of the building is okay before we put all of those members underneath that section that came down and have a portion of the wall come down on top of them needlessly. So I think there'll be a little wait while the stability is evaluated before members are put back in that section.
Right, and we don't know if this building has had violations. We see dogs on the scene right now, apparently looking for anybody who might be in that rubble. But it looks like, thank goodness, they're coming up empty-handed this morning. Commissioner Dan Nigro, we appreciate you lending your expertise to us this morning on Good Day New York. If you hear anything, please let us know.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for your insight. All right, we'll be back with more Good Day right after this.
Are you sure? You tend to examine.
All right, so we did want to share the very latest. As you can see, that first responders are still there on scene.
Hello, my name is DrPaulCottrell, and we are doing a live stream on October 1st on Rumble, on YouTube, and my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. 3 big things that are happening today. There was a gas explosion in the Bronx. The jobs data that came out today is poor. There were job losses, and the government shutdown is in effect. So it's going to be moving markets. Thank you for joining. I greatly appreciate it. Please share the links, ask your social media to follow me. If you like the content that I do, help support the work. You can support the work many different ways. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. You can be a paid member to my Patreon channel or my Substack. You can also follow me on TikTok and X and GETTR. So there's many different ways. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. So please subscribe and help support the work that I do. All these videos are for free. And I have great products on my store. You can purchase ebooks and supplements and even course material on immunology and pulmonology on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So please help support the work that I do by going to the store and purchasing the products and donating. All of this is for free. All these videos are for free. I put thousands of videos out there. So please help support the work I do. Right, with that said, the market has opened up. The S&P 500 is at 6,670. VIX is at 16.47. Euro is trading at 117. Oil is trading at 61.57 a barrel. BITO is trading at 19.29. Bitcoin is trading at 117. Natural gas is trading at 3.3, and Oil is trading at 30.34. Okay, so that's the market update. Let's listen into Bloomberg here.
Wait, in Europe, kind of U-turned over the Atlantic and came back into the U.S. because wait, I can buy the U.S. market now at a 20% discount and have full exposure to that AI theme. So yeah, it's without a doubt what's the key driver of the market. AI power generation as well, one of our favorite themes, and we're still very positive.
The power gen is crazy. We had an amazing story the other day on how much it's driven up electricity prices, but that just shows the huge demand.
I agree. If we look at the gubernatorial race in New Jersey, this has become a key topic. Kathy Hochul in the U.S., working in New York, working with Trump to get natural gas. You look at out in California, they're now negotiating with these oil prices. I mean, when those big blue states start really focusing on energy costs, A, it's going to be a huge political issue, but B, you also know it's a serious challenge to face.
If I look at commodities, I mean, GLCO is the way to pull up the big page on the Bloomberg terminal. Gold at another record high right now, 38.74, and obviously with the dollar weakening, that makes a little bit more sense. But do you, as an equities strategist, do you advise your clients also to hold a little bit of this, or even the producers of gold?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the producers of gold. I think that GDX is up almost 100% year to date. So you've gotten gold prices to a level where the operating leverage in the gold miners is now playing into it. To your point of the dollar, I think earlier in the year, people wanted to be short the dollar because of tariffs. There weren't any other currencies they necessarily wanted to be long, so they ended up in gold. The only thing that worries me a little bit about gold right now is no matter what scenario I put out there to someone who's bullish gold, they tell me gold is going up in that scenario. So it does seem like sentiment is really there. But
kind of like crypto people, right?
Exactly. There's no bad news.
You're right about the GDX. It's actually up 128% year to date. So it's done incredibly well. Outside of this ETF or outside of the AI and even the energy play, is there anything else that you like? I mean, do you have faith in the S&P 493 to be able to boost earnings as much as the Max 7?
I mean, we really hope so, because if you look at how the market has been performing lately, it's S&P 500 up quite a bit, Russell 2000 catching up, but the S&P 493 or S&P equal weight is actually lagging both of them. So it's very interesting. The belly of the market has kind of been really underperforming. And yeah, to your point, what you need there is a broadening out of EPS growth. We've seen little hints of that, here and there. But look, at this quarter and next quarter, we're really going to need to see that happening for that to work. Otherwise, look, at Mag 7 equally weighted, it was up almost 800 basis points, 8% last month. So we would love that trade to work, because I think that means earnings is broadening and the economy is very solid. It just hasn't happened, and I think it's a show me story right now.
Stuart, great having you with us. Really appreciate the time you spent with us today. Stuart Kaiser is the head U.S. equity strategist over at Citi. Let's get a check right now on how the market is doing. Just a few minutes into the open, we're looking at losses, but only about 0.25% on the S&P. This is the move screen, which I think is the most dynamic way to look at the S&P 500. We got it arranged by points, so you're going to see on either end of the barbell really the biggest companies in the market. Apple is the biggest gainer right now, adding 7 points. And you've got then Eli Lilly, Visa, and Thermo Fisher Scientific. You're going to see some of these, Merck, for example, and Lilly, AbbVie, some of these companies coming up with Pfizer after the announcement that they made yesterday in the talk with President Trump. NVIDIA is the biggest loser in terms of point reductions, taking 4 points off of the index. You see Facebook there as well, Meta Platforms with Microsoft, JP Morgan, Broadcom, and Google holding the market down as well. In terms of the sectors that are moving right now, it's still obviously very early in the session, but you see healthcare the biggest gainer. And that's what I'm talking about with Pfizer, with Lilly, with Merck, all of these drug makers doing better, rallying on the news that we got yesterday in the press conference with the president. Utilities are also doing well, real estate and consumer discretionary. These are really defensive. Actually, all four of them really are defensive sectors. So when these lead, that's not really bullish. And you do see the market obviously weighed down by communication services. These are the big hyperscalers, financials, the big banks, industrials, and consumer staples. Now, coming up, the Fed lowering the stress capital requirements on Morgan Stanley. We're going to take a look at their decision. Plus, more on the government shutdown next. This is Bloomberg Open Interest.
Exercise. I was about to give up and
Meantime, the U.S. government now officially shut down. This after federal funding lapsed at midnight, 12:01. Emily Wilkins was up at that hour. She joins us now with the latest from Washington. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Well, the big question in D.C. right now is how long this shutdown is going to go. The Senate did try and fail to pass a short-term funding patch last night, but interestingly enough, 3 Democrats voted with Republicans to keep the government funded. And Senate Majority Leader John Boone, he's hoping to get more today when the Senate will hold another vote to end the shutdown this morning.
There are people there are others out there, I think, who don't want to shut down the government, but are being put in a position by their leadership that ought to make all of them very uncomfortable.
Senator Catherine Cortez Masto was one of the Democrats to vote for the stopgap. She tweeted that she cannot support a costly shutdown that would hurt Nevada families and hand even more power to this reckless administration. She went on to say we need a bipartisan solution to address this impending healthcare crisis, but we should not be swapping the pain of one group of Americans for another. An estimated 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed in this shutdown, and Trump did reiterate yesterday that he does plan to follow through on firing federal employees and potentially closing some programs. And so, guys, the question I guess now is how long it's going to go, and for the White House, what are their next moves going to be? Andrew?
What do you think is on offer? That's the question. Meaning, what would have to happen to either pull some Dems, or what would be the sort of necessary ingredients at this point?
So, Andrew, one of the things that I was chatting with some of my sources on Capitol Hill about yesterday is that in a shutdown scenario, the pressure just absolutely increases. I mean, that line from we're going into a shutdown to we're in a shutdown, you have folks who aren't getting paid, you have a number of programs that have stopped. It's like 1,000 little switches all turn off at once. And some of those switches you don't recognize maybe in the first day or even the first week what it means for them to be off, but the longer you go, the more pain there is. That means there's going to be increasing amount of pressure on these Democrats to vote with Republicans, because that's the plan for GOP leadership. They're going to continue to put this bill on the floor. They're going to continue to have Democrats to vote, and they're going to continue to put some of these Democrats, especially those from, say, states that are a little bit more purple, a little bit more swing states, to continue to justify their decision in keeping the government closed while the amount of risk and impact continues to ratchet up. So I think for every day that passes is another day that more pressure is going to be put on Senate Democrats to try to find a way to get to yes, or to accept that they need to reopen up the government without having anything more than they currently have, which is just a verbal promise from Republicans that they will work with them on these tax credits.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. And I wonder whether in terms of just that very idea that the pressure is going to ratchet up on them, but they're also not going to want to look like they did this for nothing. So is there some little something that they're going to be able to walk away with so that they can actually vote for it? Or do you think they're just full on capitulate?
That's a really great question, Andrew. And I mean, obviously, Democrats went into this thinking that this would be a plus for them to shut the government down, either to extract a win from Republicans, or at least, as they've said, show fight. But you're right. I mean, the given wisdom with these shutdowns is that if you're going into one, you have to figure out how you're going to get out of one. And at this point, I don't think it's very clear exactly what that is going to be. Republicans are also holding firm that they're not adding any health care provisions to this, that they're just not going to be doing it until we get past a government funding shutdown. And I think one thing to keep an eye on is honestly the polls that come out of this. What are the American people thinking? Who are they blaming for it? We've seen that move the needle before in D.C.
55 is, you'd never see that in the House, the board collective. I mean, that's, you'd even call that a bipartisan attempt to pass the CR if you really were, if you wanted to say, because there were actually Democrats. Of course, I think Rand Paul went the other way, but I don't think.
It was Democrats and an independent.
Angus King, yeah. But he's a Democrat functionally. But that is that's, you'd call that signs of no except for Rand Paul, but that's a crack. 55. I was surprised by that. So I don't. I don't think that portends good things. Because they're usually
we should note there was.
At Replit, we believe everyone should be able to create software without limits and without knowing how to code. Introducing Agent 3.
Those are usually
we should note there was one Democrat who did vote in the House to keep the funding bill going, and there was one more who said that she was planning on doing so, didn't wind up actually casting a vote there. But I think that was a huge thing to come out of last night, is that there is sort of a crack here that's forming with Senate Democrats, and it's showing that not all of them are comfortable owning what's going to be happening with the shutdown and owning what the White House might do next in terms of these massive layoffs that they've been talking about.
Okay, do you know where the most federal workers are employed, which states?
So Maryland and Virginia are two of the big ones.
And California is the biggest. So those three states between them have 6 Democratic senators. That's going to be putting a lot of pressure if this were to go on, if the furloughs actually come down, if the furloughs turn into more than temporary furloughs, it'll put a lot of pressure on those 6 senators in particular.
And Becky will be watching those senators in particular, and also I think you have to keep an eye on Nevada. You have to keep an eye on Georgia. You have to keep an eye on states and on lawmakers who are going to be running for re-election next year. Obviously, that's not every senator. They go a third, but for the third who are up and for those who are facing really competitive races, do they see shutting the government down as something that might impede their chances to get reelected? And do you see those members begin to cross the line and vote to keep the government funded?
Healthcare is something that it's a real issue for a lot of people, and the Democrats are smart in that respect. I don't think it justifies closing the government down. The Journal's got a great piece about some of the Republicans already showing some feet of clay about the Medicare reforms that were in the OBBB. They're already, indicating, yeah, we understand, yeah, we might because they were uncomfortable with the backlash of trying to rein in Medicaid at all. Even as minor as that was, just slowing the growth of Medicaid, so that might be where someone, I wonder, did Trump, I wonder about the 3D game of chess. I don't know if he really plays that, but he could snatch defeat from the jaws of victory if he really goes slash and burn on all the federal employees. Then that would drum up.
We'll go into the economy too.
That would drum up support for.
The jobs market is the one area we're watching most closely. Right. That every market person who says they have very positive thoughts about the market, the one thing that they say they worry about is the jobs market.
But I think long term he'd like to close a lot of things, and he might not be thinking about his House colleagues in 2 years.
Or the 34 senators.
Yeah, there could be some big announcements near term on permanent firings.
Yeah, and then of course there's also the question on what happens down the road with those firings. I mean, Democrats have pointed out that some of the federal employees that were laid off by DOJ, Department of Government Efficiency, have been now called back to work and asked to return. At the same point, you've seen the Supreme Court pass down that sort of initial ruling saying, hey, White House, you do have more authority if you want to continue to lay off federal workers. They've opened up the door to that. So there has been, I think, a lot of questions when it comes to the courts, as well as just what needs to get done on any given basis. And when they fire folks, who are those folks? What role do they have? And are they going to realize in a month or two that they need them back? That's what Democrats are betting on with this. But of course, as we're seeing here, a number of them are less confident about taking that bet.
And both sides have issues where they can look in the camera and they can say things that are basically true, but seem like they're saying opposite things, but they're both a little bit right. Like, you can't, under federal law, cover illegal immigrants with health care, but you can have a state put it under their Medicaid coverage and get reimbursed from the federal government to cover the illegal. So they both get very vociferous and loud about, I'm telling you this is true. And they're just both exploiting sort of loopholes on where the actual truth is. So the poor public is like, I don't know what's true at this point.
I mean, I thought that was a good breakdown. I mean, obviously with the Trump mega bill, we did see Republicans try to say, hey, we want to make sure that those who are getting Medicaid are the ones who, they're in the country legally, but they have green cards, they're immigrants who are going to be here for a while. So they did restrict the ability for some folks who are in the country legally, but maybe have a refugee status or they're on 1-year probation from getting a certain health care benefits.
There's more than that.
And so what Democrats want to do, they want to
in California,
yes,
it's
totally.
everybody.
I just wanted
California is
to add,
1.6 million people that aren't supposed to be here. The green cards are not that we're able to. And so they're not getting fed. They're not getting, strictly speaking, they're not getting federal funds. They're getting that's the you get the provider tax from the hospitals. You use that to cover the illegals, and then you get reimbursed 90% federally. But it's not the same dollars. But it's all, as Steven said yesterday, it's all fungible. Anyway,
a lot of complexities there.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the very high quality soaps. They're made from structural nanosilver. You can get it in charcoal tea tree, lemongrass, also in peppermint and lavender. So please go to my store, get the structural nanosilver soaps, use them every day, especially during this fall and winter season. This fall and winter season is going to be problematic and you need to be prepared. So go to my store and get the structural nanosilver soaps. Very important. Please go to my store, use discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. All right, let's take a look at what's going on with AI and the workplace.
This morning in our Consumer Confidential, AI is everywhere these days, including at work. And this morning we are going to help you stay up to speed with the changing technology.
So according to a recent Stanford University report, 78% of organizations used AI last year. That's up from 55% the year before. So today, LinkedIn is out with its guide to the future. It's got to future-proofing your career. And here to walk us through is the editor-in-chief, one of our favorite guests, Dan Roth.
Good morning.
So we're looking at AI here. It's already reshaping the workplace. What are you seeing at LinkedIn?
Yeah, so first of all, change is happening even faster than ever. So we are used to change at this point. 1 in 5 professionals are in jobs today that did not exist in the year 2000. If you are a data scientist or a customer success manager, those are new jobs. The change is happening much faster now with AI. People who are entering the workforce today are going to have about twice as many jobs as those who entered it just 15 years ago. So now what's happening? People are very nervous about this. Our report shows that 41% of people globally are saying that they are nervous about the need to get AI, and 54% are saying that they are excited about what it could do to help streamline their work, but there's a lot of nerves here. I'm here to say, don't panic, just prepare.
Well, on that note, can you talk about some of the jobs that are most affected by AI and then on the opposite end?
Yeah, sure. So first of all jobs are being affected by AI. So our data shows that 85% of professionals are going to see at least a quarter of the skills that are required to do their job change because of AI. So even in the job that you're in, you're going to have to learn an entirely new
Is it just
set.
entering data for whatever they're doing?
No, it's like changing how you write reports and how you talk to people and how you get information and what is required as the output of your job. So some jobs are already totally being affected. You can see in this list, media, marketing, engineer, HR, anything in arts and design, like already massive changes in the skills that are required to do that job.
So I understand it's like good to.
But there are other jobs that are less so.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there are other ones where you're seeing it happen a little bit. That's anything that requires like human-to-human interaction or physical presence, like real estate agents.
Okay, I see that.
You see like community services, healthcare services, operations. Those require us to be in person and talk to each other. AI is changing those, not as quickly. Also, if you are like an oil field worker or a real estate agent, or there's some jobs where a physician's assistant, AI is barely having an impact. So you got to learn it, but it's not going to affect your job right away.
Okay. So to that point, you have to learn it.
Yeah.
There are other human skills.
Yes.
That
are really good for jobs.
Yes, so you nailed it. You have to learn it, and you have to be really show the kind of humanity. So what we see from employers is that the most in-demand skills are things that involve communication. So conflict mitigation, how we all learn to work together, adaptability, how quickly you deal with these kind of changes that are happening in the workplace, how innovative you are in your thinking. Public speaking increasingly is in demand. So employers need people who can not just do this work or ship work to AI, but actually talk to each other about it and guide everyone through the changes.
Yeah. So let's not do any AI shaming, but AI shaming. But so you're just trying to get into this.
Yeah.
What are some good baby steps you can take to start acclimating yourself?
So the great part is there are tons of all these tools. Almost all of them are free. At least they can start free. And this isn't a technical. These aren't technical skills. You get started in it by getting started in it. So use ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini. Start playing around. Ask it questions. Ask the questions you've always wondered about your job. What if I did this? How do I build a business plan? How should I deal with this colleague that I'm having some issue with? Just get started. There are a million free courses out there. When I say courses, these are not, you have to sit down in front of your computer or like become a Ph.D. It's just learning from someone who's already maybe a year ahead of you in these skills. Take those shots, but really the key is just getting started.
I was just about to say, I just think it's intimidating for AI, and you're just like, ugh. But I think once you try it just a little bit,
so it's not like learning a new language. Yeah. It's like kind of learning something with a friend.
It kind of helps you along. Like I was making a cocktail or something. They had to make it for a group of people. Ask it to scale it up for 25, and they gave me the measurement.
There you go. And they can talk easier.
I was just going to say,
after you all at the party.
I got
So it makes your work better, makes your parties better. That's
there you go.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Scaling up a recipe for cocktails. All you got to do is multiply it by the number of people you have. I mean, I can't believe that there's that many people that are that stupid where they can't use a multiplication table. Amazing. All right, let's go back to Bloomberg.
This Bloomberg's Gabriella Coppola reports on cars for us out of Detroit. I want to point out that happening right now is Bloomberg's Women, Money, and Power event in London. My co-host Danny Berger is there moderating a panel on global real estate with executives from PIMCO, Blackstone, and AXA. Check it out if you like on the Bloomberg terminal. Type LIVE GO. This
We're going to listen to
Vienna trip. Every flight pure delight. Culture time always fine. Fly non-stop to Vienna. Book now on Austrian.com. Austrian.
I'm tired of these commercials. Johnson's going to
Stress keeping you up? Introducing Lemon Balm by Vimergy. This fast-absorbing concentrate works at the cellular level, so you stay calm. Vimergy. We can save ourselves.
Federal government, of course, officially in shutdown mode right now, after Democrats and Republicans failed to agree on a funding bill. The measure required 60 votes to pass, but it fell short. In a 55-45 vote, Democrats, John Fetterman and Catherine Cortez Masto, went with Republicans, along with independent Angus King. They all voted with Republicans to support the bill and support the government staying open. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul was the only Republican who voted against the bill. The Congressional Budget Office says an estimated 750,000 federal employees could face furloughs as a result of this impasse. The OMB formally instructing agencies to begin shutdown procedures Tuesday night. Another memo expected today. This marks the fourth government shutdown this century, the first since 2019's record 35-day standoff over border wall funding. That was in 2019. Joining me now is the Speaker of the House, Congressman Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. And I know you've had a lot going on overnight. We're not going to get economic data this Friday because the government just shut down. What else will be impacted by this shutdown?
Good to see you this morning, my friend. It was a long night here. It's been a long few days. We were hoping, praying that the Democrats would not take this dramatic step, and they have. Let's be clear what happened last night. 44 Senate Democrats rejected a clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution to keep the government operating. They decided that it would be more important to give health care to illegal aliens again instead of keeping critical services running for the American people. That's what happened. So real people are going to be affected. About half the civilian workforce, federal hardworking Americans who work for the federal government, will be furloughed. We'll have troops and border patrol agents who do have to go to work, but who will not be paid. You're going to have critical services to women, infants, and children through the nutrition programs that will now be halted. You're going to have FEMA that can't renew flood insurance programs while we're in the center of hurricane season. I mean, it's really incredible that they took this step, and I want to make something very clear at the outset here, Maria. There is one reason, and one reason alone, that Chuck Schumer is leading the Democrats off this cliff. He is trying to get political cover from the far left corner of his base. He's afraid of a challenge for his Senate seat by AOC or someone like that. And that's why he has changed his tune. Everything he said for his entire career in Washington for decades, that shutdowns would be dangerous and reckless and irresponsible. He's now changed his tune to give himself political cover, and that's exactly what's going on here.
That's incredible. There were two Democrats who actually sided with Republicans to keep the government open, and I spoke with one of them, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, on Sunday, who told me then that he would not vote against keeping government open. Here's what he told me Sunday. Watch.
It is always, always wrong to shut our government down. That is a core responsibility. I'm always going to vote against those things. And if it's the Republican side or now it's our side, especially with the kinds of chaos that we are facing after Kirk, and now there's a Cat 5 storm that might hit our nation too. Now, and you're willing to threaten our down. I was the only Democrat voting against that. And now that CR was the same CR from the Biden administration as well, too.
Right.
For me, I'm a big believer of if you want to change the policies, win elections. And that's really the way democracy works.
So, Mr. Speaker, the Senate will vote again today on both the House-passed CR and the version introduced by Chuck Schumer. Do you think a breakthrough could be possible today or no?
Well, I certainly hope so. We already saw a bit of the beginning of a break, I think, last night with a couple more joining. What Senator Fetterman said there is exactly right. That interview you had with him has been sent around the world because there's so much common sense there. And what he was referring to is the fact that his colleagues, Democrat colleagues, have always supported continuing resolutions. In fact, Maria, the actual number is 13 times. In the previous 4 years under the Biden administration, there were CR situations, and they all voted yes. Why? Because they wanted to keep the government open because they knew how dangerous and damaging it would be to the American people. And now they switched their tune because they're trying to play politics.
President Trump has said, he could use this as an opportunity to further cut government and turn some of those temporary furloughs into permanent job cuts. Speaker, can you assess what you're expecting in terms of the job cuts and how severe they could be?
Yes, and the president and I have talked about this at great length. While a shutdown is very damaging for real American people who depend upon government services, it can provide an opportunity to downsize the scope and the scale of government, which is something that we've all always wanted to do. And so in a way, Chuck Schumer has now handed the keys to the kingdom to the executive branch under President Trump to do some things that we would not otherwise be able to do because we would never get Democrat votes for them. Now, Russ Vought is in charge, as you know, of the Office of Management and Budget. And it is his responsibility to look at all of this and make very difficult choices. He gets to decide now what services are essential, what programs and policies should be continued, and which would not be a priority for taxpayers. That is what is about to happen, and Chuck Schumer has allowed that. And so from his political perspective, it's a pretty massive backfire. And there's a real opportunity for government to work more efficiently and effectively for the people if those decisions are made.
Well, I mean, it has to be stressed that this is the same continuing resolution that they voted for under Biden. And so what's changed now? President Trump is the president. Is it all just about fighting Trump?
It appears that way. And again, giving Chuck Schumer personal political cover in New York because he's afraid he's going to be challenged from a socialist. Okay, he acts like a socialist himself, but he's not far enough left for the base that's arisen there. That's the problem, and that's what's changed. Now, we were in the Oval Office, with the leaders. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries were invited because President Trump shows strong leadership, and he said, "I'll hear the arguments, bring it in." They couldn't present a single argument that was credible, so there was nothing to negotiate. They don't have any credible point to make. They're just trying to make a partisan political stand for their own purposes. And real people are going to be affected, and that's what's so frustrating about this whole thing.
Well, I think they feel that if they keep saying it's healthcare, that they'll get the American people's attention. And I know it is largely about those subsidies, those Obamacare subsidies, but you also said it's about making it easier for illegal immigrants to get health care benefits. I want to get your take on what Ro Khanna said to me yesterday, because he's pushing back on that and saying that it's really not about illegals. Watch this. He spoke with me yesterday here.
In terms of health care, the reality is they're just not being honest. The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion of the Medicaid cuts or the Affordable Care Act, if at all. And so we can argue that point, but the reality that even the vice president would acknowledge, and anyone who looks at the numbers will acknowledge, is 90 to 95% of the funding we're talking about is talking about funding for American citizens.
So, Mr. Speaker, what really is this fight about?
Well, I'd like everybody to go read the bill for themselves. They rejected our clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. They filed their own. What Chuck Schumer presented as the counterproposal. Look at page 57, section 2141, okay? They would repeal, Maria, what we put into the One Big Beautiful Bill, the working families tax cuts, okay? In that provision was the healthcare section. They want to repeal it in its entirety. That section has been wildly successful. The Congressional Budget Office issued a report earlier this month, last month, a few weeks ago, and they said that that bill has already saved taxpayers $185 billion because it's got 2.3 million ineligible recipients kicked off of Medicaid. What does that mean? There's a lot of illegal aliens that were on that program who are not eligible to be there. It was draining resources from the people that it's intended to help, and that is young pregnant women, the disabled, and the elderly. We are strengthening Medicaid, and the Democrats want to unwind that because they have a political talking point. This thing about the subsidies is an issue that is to be debated and decided by the end of the year. It doesn't expire until December 31. They've inserted it into the September funding decision because they're trying to show a fight against Trump. It's ridiculous. They have nothing to argue, and everybody here knows that.
So you're going to have to deal with those subsidies anyway. You could deal with them later in the year. You don't have to deal with that right now while you're trying to fund government by November. But let me get your take on what Senator Mike Rounds is sending around, because his idea from South Carolina would be that the subsidies are extended for 1 year, which would then be followed up by a 1 year phase down return to the tax credits to pre-COVID levels. Is that something you could support?
Listen, we have a lot of debate and discussion about that because the subsidy program is propping up insurance companies, not premium payers. Premiums have continued to go up. There are lots of problems. So there's been a lot of discussion here, early discussion, about how those things could be dramatically revised. I mean, there's got to be changes to it if it's even going to be considered. But we need a lot more time to build consensus around any idea that would be viable to pass with conservatives in the House and Senate. And we just simply can't do that before the end of the fiscal year, which was yesterday, right? So they've got to keep the government open. Our point is exactly that. Do your first job. Your most important responsibility as Congress is to keep the government operating for the people. Just do that. And then we'll have all these debates. I mean, that's what the process is for. A deliberative legislative body works through that. But you got to have the lights on to do it. And it's absurd that they're denying that reality.
You know, in previous shutdowns, you had the debt limit debate, which sort of was acting like a catalyst for action, right? I mean, when you know you're up against the debt limit, you got to move, you got to make a decision. You don't have any action forcing catalysts this time around. So this could go on and on. How long would you expect this to go on?
Well, our prayer is that it is a very short shutdown and that more Democrats come to their senses and do the right thing for the American people and not follow Chuck Schumer off the cliff. He has painted himself into a corner because he's made absurd arguments. They've created a position here that is indefensible. There's nothing I can give. There's nothing to negotiate, Maria, because I can't offer anything to make our CR less partisan because I never added partisan provisions in the first place. It's totally clean. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer voted for in March. And you should go see what he said and how important it was back then. It's exactly the same. He has nothing to argue and I have nothing to offer. So there's no negotiation. And that's why President Trump sent him away from the White House and he said, this is very unfortunate. You won't do the right thing. Well, I mean, that's what happened.
Putting aside the people who could get fired altogether and not get paid, when you're talking about the federal workers who are furloughed, they'll likely get paid on October 5th to the last 2 weeks of September.
but the next pay period would be October 20th. Are you expecting them to miss that October 20th paycheck for the first 2 weeks of October work? And do they get that money back later?
I sure hope that they don't.
Gusto is the best choice for small business payroll. It's fast. It's trusted. It's a great value. And when it comes to running your business, it's the easiest choice you can make. Get started for free at...
I sure hope that they don't miss that paycheck. They do typically get the money back. But you're talking about real hardships for real people. I mean, think of it, military troops who are serving, some who are overseas right now, they're deployed. Well, their families are back here. You have spouses and children who are dependent upon those paychecks. That they may not have a big savings account that they can rely upon. It does real harm to real people. TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, vital federal services. In the healthcare sector, they claim this is all about healthcare. Guess what they put in their counter proposal, Maria? They want to strip away the $50 billion that we put in the big beautiful bill to prop up rural hospitals. Why? Because they're in red states. I guess that's how they see it. But they made some absurd arguments. The WIC program that provides nutrition assistance for women, infants, and children is going to be stopped. Veterans health care services. We have people who are low-income recipients on the Medicare program who receive telehealth and health from home. Those programs just got stopped by Chuck Schumer's antics. I mean, this is real harm to a lot of people. And I think we've got to resolve it ASAP.
And some of the bills that expired at midnight last night, the Farm Bill, the CISA authorization, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, flood insurance, as you just mentioned, complicating home purchases and or refis in floodplains. You got the AGOA, African Growth and Opportunity Act, offering tariff-free access to U.S. markets for 32 African countries. In past expirations, retroactive extensions, and importer refunds. But, one of the big questions is how long does it last? But all of those things, in addition to everything you just mentioned, obviously, does that come back on the docket if this is a fast and quick shutdown?
Well, yes, we can minimize the damage if it's a short-term, continuing resolution. I mean, a short-term shutdown, we can fix that. I will tell you that Leader Thune is going to put the bill on the floor again today. They're going to have another opportunity. And we are certainly hopeful that more than 44 Democrats will do the right thing. They voted to shut it down. We need more of them to peel off of that position and do the right thing and keep the government open. Do what they have always done in the past. Again, I'll say it again, 13 times in the previous 4 years under the Biden administration. Every single one of those Democrats voted to keep the government open. They need to do it again.
All right, we will be watching that. The vote happens when, Mr. Speaker, later this afternoon?
Later this afternoon, there's a press conference at 10 a.m., a joint press conference between the Republicans and the Senate and House leadership. And we'll explain exactly what's going on for the American people. And after that, there'll be a vote. We'll see what happens.
All right, Mr. Speaker, great to have you. We'll be watching your work, obviously. And thanks so much for spending the time.
For workers in places like the TSA or museums being closed, or the places that we expect so the trains to run on time. When those things really start to impact everyday life, and it really kind of broadens out from just DC to across the country, there's going to be a lot of political pushback.
Yeah, a lot of political pushback, although Americans have gotten pretty familiar with these shutdowns. They usually don't last very long and everyone kind of moves on with their life. Jamie, you cover national security for us. And of course, yesterday we had the President and the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, addressing hundreds of the U.S. military's top generals. It was a rare in-person meeting in Northern Virginia. What was the big takeaway from that for those who didn't catch it?
There were two sort of hallmark features. One was from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, the Defense Secretary. Congress really hasn't made that designation change yet. So on paper, it's still the Defense Department, and of course, President Donald Trump. There's been a real push from Pete Hegseth in particular to focus on what he calls the warrior ethos in the military. So that includes a lot of sort of fitness, an end to diversity, policies and choices. And I was listening to some excerpts of the speech this morning, and he was essentially saying that he doesn't want anyone, whether they're men or women, who aren't fit enough to do a lot of the sort of the standard sort of fitness tests to be on missions. If you can't carry ammunition, for example. But he also said that if women can't do what men are doing, then there are going to be missions that don't have women on them. And it was very political, which is not normal for the military. They sort of both President Trump and Pete Hegseth spoke to a room of mostly quiet senior officers who were really pulled in from across the world, which is unprecedented. Took people away from really important work that they're doing in Asia Pacific, in Europe, in Africa. Whether they're on nuclear submarine watch or they're some kind of surveillance or satellite work. I mean, they're doing very, very skilled work, and to have them brought in for these speeches was unprecedented. And so it's the thing that everyone kind of really took away from President Trump's speech was this mentioning of introducing the military as training domestically against I'm Australian, against American populations and cities, and that also would be unprecedented. So it remains to be seen what that would look like and if that actually would eventuate. I imagine that there are protocols and obviously conventions within the military to not do that, but we'll see what happens.
And Jamie, what I have not really seen today is any reporting on responses from some of those that were in attendance there. It seems to be a pretty tight ship in terms of no real leaks about how some of those officers may have, taken in these speeches.
Well, I mean, I've had experience embedding with U.S. military some time ago in Iraq and elsewhere, and they generally try to keep their politics to themselves. Our Pentagon colleagues our colleagues who cover the Pentagon, I'm sure, are hearing much more than you and I are at the moment. But the military really does kind of pride itself on being apolitical. There are conservative and liberal officers who serve, and I'm not surprised that you're not hearing a lot about that right now, and you're probably hearing more from people who had served and are now outside of the military than the people who have to go back to their stations, and then also their leaders. They need to also, sort of lead forward as well, and they have a lot of people that they're responsible for, and so I think that they all really take their responsibility very seriously, and I think that they've tried really hard to keep politics out of the mission, which is to protect American national interests and keep Americans safe.
Jamie, final question to you. We started with the shutdown, so let's end with the shutdown. How does the government shutdown impact the U.S. military? Do active duty service members get paid, or do they kind of continue serving without pay?
They continue serving without pay, and that's going to be a particular pressure point that the Republicans will use as they continue to blame the Democrats for this impasse and the refusal to agree to pass this continuing resolution. We're going to see a lot of moments and opportunities for both sides to be able to win political points, and that's going to be a particular pressure point that we will see going forward.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much. Jamie Tarabay, of course, covering national security for us here at Bloomberg News in Washington, D.C.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the toothpaste that I have. This is a structural nano-silver toothpaste. It'll whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with your gum line health, and reduce inflammation at the gum line, and neutralize. It's really important to take during the fall and the winter. You should be using this all year round, but really important to use it in the fall and the winter to neutralize what's coming. Super important. I can't make it more obvious to you. All right, please get a few tubes of this toothpaste from my store. Be prepared. You're gonna need it. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Also, zeolite. Zeolite will help to detoxify your body. By detoxifying your body, you're helping your immune system and your endocrine system, your kidneys, your bladder, your liver, even your brain function. So detoxifying your body is super important. Zeolite, take 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that every day. And what that'll do is it'll bind to the toxin and allow you to urinate it out in about 6 to 8 hours. By detoxifying your body daily, you're going to be healthier. So please go to my store and get the zeolite. Super important to do especially during the fall and winter, because you're going to really need a very powerful, supercharged, boosted up immune system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Let's listen into CNN's perspective on the shutdown.
A finger pointing going on. Democrats want to include an extension of Obamacare subsidies that expire at the end of the year. Republicans have refused to negotiate on subsidies unless Democrats first agree to a short-term resolution that would fund the government for 7 weeks. Let's go to Renee Marsh to get a rundown of who might be affected by the shutdown. Renee.
That's right. We're just hours into this shutdown. And this morning, thousands of federal workers are now furloughed. I want to give you a snapshot on just how many at various government agencies. We have a full screen there, which has a breakdown of a variety of agencies. More than 11,000 at the FAA, and several others are now furloughed. We know that the longer this will drag on, the more painful that this will be for Americans. There are essential programs and services that will continue despite the shutdown: Social Security and Medicare benefits, unemployment, jobless benefits, the National Weather Service forecast and warnings, that will continue. Veterans medical services, ICE immigration enforcement, Custom and Border Protection, and TSA are all considered essential employees. So they will have to continue to work without pay for the duration of this. And the same goes for air traffic controllers. So if you have a flight right now, you should be okay, but there's a caveat. The longer things drag out, circumstances may change. John, I covered the 2018 to 2019 shutdown, and that lasted 35 days. And we saw TSA and air traffic controllers call out sick after missing multiple paychecks, and that sparked delays at airports across the country. So again, depends on how long this lasts. Passports and visas will still be processed, but that may take longer. IRS operations will continue, and so will mail delivery. But here is what is compromised. Portions of national parks and services will shut down. At the FDA, no new drug applications, some monitoring will be compromised. And the program...
At Replit, we believe everyone should be able to create software without limits and without knowing how to code. Introducing Agent 3.
Compromised. And the program that serves millions, Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, also known as WIC. We understand and are hearing from people this morning that that program has about a week's worth of money, possibly two. After that, women, children, newly pregnant women with infants may not have access to nutritious foods. So lots at stake here. Again, John, just depending on just how long this shutdown drags out.
So that is what is at stake. Renee Marsh, thank you so much. Let's get back to the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator, I was saying that every Republican who's gone on TV the last, 9 hours or so has called this the Schumer shutdown. What do you think about that name?
Well, it's really the Trump shutdown. Let me say something to you, John, that Republicans thought that they could barrel us into a shutdown because they didn't want to protect the health care of the American people. Well, now they've seen they can't bully us, they can't barrel us. They don't have the votes to push their partisan bill through that did nothing to protect American health care. So the solution now is for both sides to sit down and come to an agreement that protects American health care. The American people are struggling in health, and here's some news. We just got it from the Kaiser Health Foundation. That starting today, people will get notices that their health care premiums could go up as much as $1,000, more than double. We thought it was $400 a month. It's more than that. When people get these bills, they're going to be outraged, and they're going to say, how do we stop it? And the answer is simple. Democrats should sit down with Republicans. Republicans should negotiate with us to deal with this healthcare crisis. It's really descending upon the American people in a very bad way, and they're going to be furious, and they're going to be furious at the people who refuse to do that, who refuse to help the American people with the healthcare crisis that they created in their so-called big, bad, beautiful bill, which they now want to change the name to. They know it's so bad. And we can solve this.
So there are 3 Democrats or 2 Democrats and 1 independent
who voted with Republicans on the clean bill to keep the government open, Senator Angus King, the independent from Maine, John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, and Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada. She said we should not be swapping harm to one group of Americans for another. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm saying that the healthcare crisis is so deep and so real, and these $1,000 a month, $500, $600, $700 a month increases. Imagine you're an American family sitting at the table this week, and you see that your healthcare costs, your insurance is going to double. You're going to say, what the heck am I going to do? Somebody help me. Well, Democrats want to help. Republicans thus far don't, but now that I think they've seen that they can't bully us into just passing their bill, which does nothing, zero for American health care, and has not had any Democratic input, despite the fact that we've asked to sit down with them week after week and month after month, they will now see that. And we're going to be out there fighting, John. So Democrats are going to be all over the TV wires, all over the districts, protesting, all over the social media. And the American people are on our side. The polls show that something like 80% don't like the big, bad, and beautiful, the big, beautiful, bad, ugly bill that they have put forward.
So again, as I said, you lost 3 votes. You may be able to lose. At 8, the government will probably reopen. We'll give Republicans enough votes. How confident are you that you won't lose more Democrats?
Our caucus is resolute that we have to solve this healthcare crisis. That's our job. When something really afflicts the American people so badly, it's the job of senators on both sides of the aisle to come together. And here's what we hope. Now that the Republicans have seen they don't have the votes, they've done it twice, they will sit down and negotiate in good faith. Even when we talked to President Trump at the White House, he knew that these dramatic increases in people's health care insurance was going to hurt him. And he said that. So Vice President, there's an opening for them to sit down with us.
So in terms of an opening, in terms of an off-ramp, Vice President J.D. Vance, just like 5 minutes ago in one of his own TV interviews, said that he's willing to go to the Capitol to talk to Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats about premium support for the Affordable Health Care Act, but only after the reopening of the government. So what do you say to that? That he'll have the discussion, but after you vote yes?
They've had since March to do this. We've asked them to vote on it 3 times, the Republican senators, and all 3 times they voted no. We need a real answer now. If they kick the can down the road, you know, as Martin Luther King once said, Senior, later means never. They know this is a crisis. They keep, they don't want to talk about it, so they keep putting up this false stuff that illegal, undocumented immigrants will get this. No, the law is clear that no Medicaid, no Medicare, no ACA can go to any undocumented immigrants, but they keep bringing that up because they're afraid to talk about the real issue. Talk about it now.
One of the things that Republicans are also doing, and they're doing it in the White House press briefing, it's a running sound of Democrats talking about shutdowns in the past, including sound of you. This is the type of thing you said about shutdowns in the past. Let's listen.
What if I persuaded?
Imagine drifting off to 5-star sleep every night. Make that dream a reality with a top-rated mattress from Rainbow Flanagan.
Keynes puts the dine in dynasty, the yum in triumphant, the feast in undefeated.
What if I persuaded my caucus to say I'm going to shut the government down? I'm going to not pay our bills unless I get my way. It's a politics of idiocy, of confrontation, of paralysis. Shutting down government over a policy difference is self-defeating. We can never hold American workers hostage again. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
That was you 3 times.
Now, that was in,
go ahead. What's it?
That was in March, John, before they had done these horrible things to health care, before they had introduced these rescissions, which would allow them to ignore the budget process. And the bottom line is, when I was majority leader, we had 13 times to vote on the budget. Do you know why there was no shutdown? We sat and negotiated with the Republicans every time. They got some things, we got some things. They did not negotiate at all They refused, despite repeated entreaties by Hakeem and me, to go to the White House to sit down with Thune and Johnson. Look, if you want to know who wants a shutdown, look at the House. Johnson had the House adjourn all this week, so they couldn't even if the Senate had come up with a solution, they couldn't vote on it. But now that they've seen they can't bludgeon us, they can't roll us, hopefully they're going to sit down and negotiate now, not kick the can down the road, which they've done. It's been 45 days, and they've never done anything.
The senators, everyone in Congress right now, the Republicans, I just really pointed the finger squarely at you personally. And one of the things they're saying is this is about politics in New York, that you might face a primary from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she was actually asked about this last night. Listen to what she says.
I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance.
What about the politics on the left here, Senator?
I agree with her. The politics is with the American people. The American people are getting clobbered by these bad healthcare decisions by the Republicans. And it is up to the Republicans and Trump to do it. Our motivation, my motivation, is to do my job. When people are having a real crisis, when they're seeing their healthcare premiums go up close to $1,000, when it's not only the people on ACA, but everyone else's premiums who will go up as well, our job is to protect them. That's what we're doing. The way out is bipartisan negotiations. We hope the Republicans will do that soon and now.
Thank you for being with us.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc. This will boost up your immune system and help with your brain function, increase the efficacy of vitamin D3. You need this for the fall and the winter. Please take my advice, get the magnesium and zinc and boost up that immune system. Get olive leaf extract. This is dual purpose. This is going to help with your cardiovascular health and your immune system and boost it up. It brings down inflammation and helps to control your lipid profile. By bringing down inflammation, you're boosting up your immune system. You're going to need this, especially during the fall and the winter. You got to keep that inflammation down. Nattokinase. This will break up clots and also help with your lipid profile. It helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. You're going to need nattokinase for the fall and winter season. Why? Because clot formation is going to increase. Why? Because of the S1 subunit. Now, also get the cleanse, which is 30 parts per million, and the max 35, which is 35 parts per million. You take a teaspoon a day every day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20-30 seconds, and then swallow. When you do that, you're improving your oral cavity health and your oral pharynx, the back of your throat. You're also increasing your mucosal lining and increasing the health of your epithelial tissue. Super important. This will help to boost up your immune system. You should be doing this every day as part of an anti-aging protocol, but you should definitely be doing this through the fall and the winter season. If you or someone else is not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle 20-30 seconds, and then swallow it. It's a tablespoon or two a day. Once everything's all clear, then go back to your maintenance dose of a tablespoon or two a day. This will help to boost up your immune system and to neutralize. It's really important to take it during the fall and the winter. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Be prepared for the fall and the winter in the United States because it's going to be problematic. All you got to do is pay attention to the wastewater data that's coming out and the positivity numbers that are coming out. And almost every state has an issue. So please pay attention to me. It's going to be problematic. You need to boost up your immune system.
New Recharge by Vimergy.
All right, we're going to be playing a video about Mondani.
Welcome back. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is out of the mayoral race. He dropped out earlier this week as we are now 34 days away from the election in the Big Apple. Democrat socialist Zoran Mamdani going on offense, launching attacks against opponent Andrew Cuomo and President Trump on the campaign trail. Watch this.
We are standing here on Billionaires Row, or as I call it, Avenue Andrew. While I'm fighting for Eric Adams' voters, Andrew Cuomo is fighting for Eric Adams' donors. New York City deserves better than yet another mayor bought by billionaires. He is being funded by Trump-supporting billionaires, by the very people that have funded Donald Trump's return to the White House. I think Donald Trump is going through the stages of grief. I think the first stage was denial, that we could ever be on the precipice of winning this race. I think the stage that he has now reached is somewhat of acceptance, yet he continues to ask himself what he could do to stop our campaign.
The latest Fox polls find Mamdani still holds a double-digit lead in a hypothetical three-way race between himself, Andrew Cuomo, and Republican Curtis Sliwa. A note that this poll was taken before Adams dropped out. Joining me now is the chairman and CEO of New York City grocers Gristedes and D'Agostino's, John Katzmatidis, who has a big stake in all of this. John, it's great to see you.
Well, Maria, it's always good to be with you, and a lot of things happening. I think we have 33 days left to the election, and a lot of New Yorkers, especially the real estate industry, is panicking because they're afraid that if they have $1 billion worth of real estate, tomorrow morning, 32 days from now, might be worth a half the price.
What are you going to do, John? You've got to make a decision. Are you going to back Andrew Cuomo or are you going to back Curtis Sliwa?
Well, I've been running a campaign, ABZ, anybody but Zoran. And right now that Mayor Eric Adams is out, and I think he's doing an unfair thing. He never got any finance control, put money, and still we don't know why not. It's a Democratic town. I think President Trump has said that it's more likely that Cuomo beats Zoran than anybody else.
So you're going to get behind Cuomo?
Well, I think that anybody but Zoran, if Cuomo has the best chance of winning, then I would support him. Curtis is a member of our family, Curtis Sliwa, and if he got elected, it's not the end of the world. He knows New York City better than anybody else. But the fact is, it's a Democratic town, and what Cuomo has to say, I'm the real Democrat. Zoran is a socialist.
Yeah.
And if that message goes out to all Democratic people that he's not a real Democrat, he's a socialist. If you saw some of the videos of him addressing the Socialist Party, I mean, it sounds worse than Castro. And I think the American people have to come to a reality. And the last mayoral election, 23% of the people voted. That's not acceptable.
Yeah. Well, the smallest electorate came out and they voted for Bill de Blasio. Remember that one? Look, how is it possible that Zoran Mamdani is as popular as he is? Who is funding this guy?
There's money coming in. He doesn't go, Maria, he doesn't go from 1% to 50% without money. There's accusations, and let the Department of Justice do their own homework. There's accusations that foreign money is involved. The joke we told last time on Fox was we bought Manhattan Island from the Indians for $24. Some foreigners are trying to buy it back.
Wow.
No, there is foreign money involved. If they can prove that he knows it was foreign money, don't forget, his mother's movies are funded by the Qataris.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, the reason that we're watching this race so badly and so closely is because this is where the Democrat Party is going.
Well, they said, the Socialist Party has said, we will take over the entire Democratic Party by 2028. And the Democratic Party has to, the common sense, there's common sense people in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
They have to say enough is enough. And somebody has to have the courage to put their foot down.
But John, this is the future of really what's happening with the Democratic Party for sure. I mean, if you look what Trump tapped into when he was running, I feel that he's tapping into the same type of movement, but on the other side.
110%.
Yeah.
There's subversion. Foreign money is coming in here trying to they are training, by the way, Maria, they are training 30 other people similar to Modami to do other cities.
Mm-hmm.
And our Homeland Security and whoever is doing their homework has to work harder and keep track of this, because we're going to lose our cities.
Well, he claims that he is going to rein in affordability for citizens. Americans are still seeing high prices at the grocery store. What do you want to tell us?
Fidel Castro said the same thing. And Curtis were down there, we're in Cuba with Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
And the shelves are empty. You have a great smile. Fidel Castro had a great smile.
Wow.
And
Well, the August CPI showed overall food prices up 0.5% month over month. Food prices at home up 0.6%. Food away from home up 0.3%. So what do you say about getting relief at the grocery store? And how does that change if, in fact, Mamdani's wish of government-run grocery stores comes into play? What does that mean for cities and D'Agostino?
Government-run grocery stores don't work. The place in Kansas City blew through $20 million and they were broke. Atlanta is doing the same thing, and they don't work. At what point is the DA going to arrest anybody that's stealing in a government store? He doesn't arrest anybody stealing in our stores right now. So, I mean, what the heck is going on here?
Now, at one point, Mamdani said that he would have Netanyahu arrested if Benjamin Netanyahu was seen in New York. I'm wondering what happens in terms of the culture of New York. You look what happened in London. You go to London right now, you feel like you're in Qatar or Saudi Arabia with the kind of activity and women all covered up. I mean, do you think there's a chance that can happen in New York as well?
Well, that was the mission of the previous administration. Let people in like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
The real reason for Brexit, the real reason for Brexit is the British woke up one day. Great Britain was 67% British. They woke up one day and they were 47% British. They said, oh crap, what the heck is going on? And that was the real reason for Brexit. They didn't say that verbally, but that was the reason.
What does your gut tell you? Who wins this race?
I think we've been lucky. I think we're going to pull it out. I think Mamdani loses.
Wow. All right, we'll see.
When do you want to get a new poll?
I would say let's look at the polls 2 weeks from now. And look, I told Curtis Sliwa myself, I said to him, look, if you're making great headway, stay. But if you don't make great headway, it's time to exit.
Well, there's another candidate who you're talking to today on your show, right?
Sid Rosenberg has him on at 6:50 this morning.
All right, John, great to see you. Thank you so much. Katz is here on set. John Katz and Tees.
All righty, let's see. What's the next? All right, J.D. Vance calls out Democrats' hypocrisy.
Americans have low-cost health care.
Senate vote. This is a Fox News alert. Right now, the U.S. government shut down after a last-ditch Senate vote failed to keep it funded.
Vice President J.D. Vance joins us. And Mr. Vice President, thanks for joining Fox and Friends this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
So y'all been going back and forth. Y'all had the leadership over. What are they asking for? Because you guys made it very clear, just want to clean CR. What do they want in return?
Yeah, so Lawrence, I would answer that, but let's step back for a second, because I think it's important for the American people to realize that the far left faction of Senate Democrats shut down the government because we wouldn't give them hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. It's actually not even all Senate Democrats. I was really gratified to see that a few of the moderate Senate Democrats voted with Senate Republicans last night to keep the government open. This is basically Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, he's worried he's going to get a primary challenge from AOC. And so he's shutting down the people's government to give in to sort of the left-wing coalition and their party And it's craziness, and people are going to suffer because of it. I mean, people who benefit from low-income food programs are going to suffer because of this. If you're flying today, I hope, of course, you arrive safely and on time, but you may not arrive on time because the TSA and air traffic controllers are not getting paid today. Our military is not getting paid today, starting today. And obviously, the longer this drags on, the worse that it is for the American people. So we are where we are. And to your point, what did Senate Democrats ask for? Well, initially, they said that they wanted to shut down the government because Donald Trump was a dictator. Okay, that's absurd. Then they said they wanted to shut down the government because they wanted hundreds of billions of dollars for healthcare benefits for illegal aliens. That, of course, is also absurd. And now they're saying they just want to work on ensuring that Americans have low-cost healthcare. Well, I agree with them. Of course, we all want to ensure that Americans have low-cost healthcare. So let's work together on that. You don't shut the government down. You don't take the government as a hostage because you want to engage in a negotiation about healthcare costs. Let's do that negotiation, but let's do it in the context of actually opening the government and ensuring those essential services are actually provided to the American people.
Speaker Johnson has a video running continuously outside of his office, and he also posted it on social media because the Democrats, when you go in the Wayback Machine, they were always the one that thought that these shutdowns were reckless. Listen to this, Mr. Vice President.
It is not normal to shut down the government when we don't get what we want.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos.
Families will be hurt. Farmers will be hurt.
It's the service members who will work without a paycheck. It's the firefighters who will be furloughed.
This shutdown, you know who's going to feel the pain? You know what hurts? You. Everyday people. And the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Well, then why didn't they vote to continue the funding?
That's such a good point, and I see that Mike Johnson has apparently learned from the trolling master, President Donald Trump, by putting that video outside of his office, just throwing the Democrats' words right back at him. But it's actually such an important point. You don't shut the government down because you have a policy disagreement. These are two separate questions. There are essential services that have already been appropriated, where we've already agreed, we want our military to have a certain amount of payment. We want air traffic control to have a certain amount. We want to ensure that a certain number of people are able to access food benefits. You don't shut down the government because you have a policy disagreement about a totally separate issue. And that's what the Democrats have done. And it really is astonishing to go back 20 years. I mean, I pretty much the entire time, guys, that I've paid attention to American politics, I have seen Democrats stand before the American people and say, you don't shut down the government because you're not getting what you want. And here they are last night, the far left faction of Senate Democrats, they shut down the government. Why? Because they're not getting what they want. And what makes it extra preposterous, guys, if you actually listen to what they say that they want to ensure this, it's a premium support program under Obamacare that they want to keep going. Well, that premium support program doesn't even expire until next year. So why are you shutting down the government on October the 1st because of a program that doesn't even expire for another few months? Let's talk about it. Let's negotiate. Let's do what you do in Washington, D.C. Don't shut down the government because you don't get what you want. That's exactly what Senate Democrats have done in this case.
So let's just put up a full screen. You mentioned some of it, the potential effects of the government shutdown. Mass furloughs, federal employees and active duty military members don't get paychecks. We have travel delays. You mentioned TSA, Social Security and SNAP and WII and WIC applications, delays in Medicare and Medicaid payments, some VA services and career counseling. So these are some of the things that will happen. Smithsonian could be closed, National Zoo. I hope someone feeds the animals, but we're not going to be able to see the animals. Can we talk about another thing that could be happening? Could Democrats begin to crack? Now, Rand Paul's on his own planet for some reason, doesn't want to vote for anything, but Fetterman, Masto, Cortez Masto, as well as Angus King, all voted with the Republicans in the Senate where he used to work. Are you hearing there could be other Democrats who don't want to go through this before the weekend and vote with you?
Yeah, Brian, I think that there will be. And if you look, frankly, when I talked to the president and our legislative team yesterday afternoon, I thought we would get 53, 54 votes. We got 55 votes because, again, that moderate faction of the Senate Democrats recognizes this is just an unreasonable position. You're not going to shut down the government because you disagree about a funding program that doesn't even expire for another few months. So I think what's going to happen is that as the political pressure builds and as we continue to have these negotiations, you're going to see more and more Democrats come to the side of reason and reopen the government. But look, I'd offer right now to the Senate Democrats, I'm happy. I will go to the Capitol right now to talk to Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats about premium support for the Affordable Care Act, but only after they've reopened the government. You can't reward this exercise in hostage taking, which is what we would be doing if we allowed government.
Breaking news, Supreme Court refuses to let Trump immediately oust Fed's cook.
Government opening to be conditional on the Democrats' policy disagreement. So we're going to negotiate with them. We, of course, want to lower healthcare costs for the American people. Look, we inherited this economy from the Biden administration. We know that healthcare costs were way too high under the Biden administration. By the way, it's one of the reasons why the president announced yesterday that we're lowering prescription drug costs for all Americans by forcing Europeans and other countries to pay their fair share so that Americans can pay lower costs. So we obviously care a lot about lowering healthcare costs for Americans, but we're not going to engage in negotiation with hostage takers, which is exactly what the Democrats have done. Now, I think, Brian, it was you who listed off some of the problems that come along with the shutdown. Let me add another one. This is October. We are entering hurricane season all across the southeastern part of our country. Flood insurance for a lot of the people who are suffering from hurricanes or could suffer from hurricanes is going to disappear because the government is shut down. Let's reopen the government. Let's fix some of the core issues that exist for our country. And then let's negotiate about the Democrats' healthcare policy ideas, which we're happy to do, but only when the government is open.
Well, Mr. Vice President, one of the lies that continues to be told is that they're not giving funding to illegals' health care. Can you explain to our audience why that's not true?
Could these mistakes cost you a comfortable retirement? Fisher Investments is sharing 13 retirement investment blunders.
Yeah, so this is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. There are two Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number one is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed, and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for healthcare benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something that we made up. It's not a talking point. It is in the text of the bill that they initially gave to us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for them to run away from it now. But look, let's set that all to the side. Let's open up the government. Let's negotiate on all of these healthcare policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support healthcare benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower healthcare costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so.
President Trump, he shared some pictures from the Oval Office meeting with Chuck Schumer and with Hakeem Jeffries, with Speaker Johnson and with Thune. And we wanted to ask you about any insight into that meeting, because the last shutdown, Mr. Vice President, was 35 days. Americans can't go, here are the pictures. Americans cannot go that long without getting a paycheck or being furloughed. So can you give us some insight into what they talked about, maybe how we can come to a compromise?
And the hats, the Trump trolling them with 28 hats.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. That's the most important part. There are also the Trump 2028 hats, which I think made the minority leader in both the House and the Senate very uncomfortable. But look, it was the four of them plus me and the president, and we were having a very good conversation about healthcare policy. But the president finally sort of threw up his hands and said, guys, let's absolutely work on this healthcare policy disagreement. We want to fix this issue for the American people, but we're not going to be taken hostage. We're not going to shut down the government and then give you everything that you want. Let's negotiate, but we're not going to reward this behavior. You have to remember, their first proposal about a week ago was to give a bunch of healthcare money to illegal aliens. And then they came back to us and said, okay, no, we don't have to do that. Let's do this other thing. You don't do a negotiation like that. You don't take the American economy hostage and then tell the president of the United States, give us everything that we want or we're going to shut down the people's government. It's ridiculous. And look, we had, again, a good conversation, but a conversation where I think they still refuse to acknowledge that their negotiating tactic was unreasonable. That if you take Hakeem Jeffries' words or you take Chuck Schumer's words, what they have said for literally, in Chuck Schumer's case, decades, is that you don't shut the government down over a policy disagreement. Now that's exactly what they've done. Let's get back to rationality, open up the government, and then we can sit down and talk.
All right, you've talked to us enough. Your team says you have to go, and you have to listen to your team. Mr. Vice President, thanks so much for your time.
And thank you for your beautiful message at Charlie's.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60 is a very strong, very potent antioxidant that's part of my anti-aging protocol. It'll slow down the aging process, soak up free radicals. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, and avocado oil. Take a teaspoon a day, every day, preferably on an empty stomach for best absorption, but take it every day. If you work out, take it before you work out, and it'll soak up the free radicals during your workout and help you to recover from the workout. But take a teaspoon a day, every day. I've been doing this since 2016, every day. All right. And what this will do is help with the health of your mitochondria, reduce the stress in the cell. Your energy levels will go up. Your tissues and your organ systems will perform better. Your immune system will perform better. Your endocrine system will perform better. It's going to help reduce plaque formation because it's reducing the free radicals in your bloodstream that causes oxidized LDL. It'll help the health of your mitochondria in your neurons. So your neurons will produce more neurotransmitters that have lots of energy. And so you'll have, over time, better neuroplasticity. That means that you'll be thinking faster and your memory will be improved. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. Now, by taking the C60 every day, within about 2 months, you're going to start noticing your body is performing better. Now, you do this for a year, and you're going to see visible differences in the way you look. You will look younger. Now, part of the reason why you're looking younger is your immune system and your endocrine system is better. Your organ systems are performing better. You have less stress, and you have less free radicals. So that's super important to help slow down the aging process. But it also helps the basal layer. The basal layer is where your skin cells are rejuvenated and new skin cells are produced because you flake off your skin. The higher levels of your skin are high levels of keratin, and they just flake off. But your basal layer produces new skin cells. Well, C60 helps to improve the health of that basal layer by soaking up those free radicals and reducing the stress. And your skin gets lots of stress from UV radiation, chemicals that it's exposed to, whatever, right? The aging process. It stacks really well with resveratrol, which also helps with the basal layer of the skin. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60. You will start noticing the differences within 2 months. And within 1 year, you will visibly see that you're slowing down the aging process. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60, take a teaspoon a day every day. Stack it with some of the other great supplements I have. If you've been paying attention to how I've been stacking throughout this broadcast and other broadcasts, you will be able to customize what you want to do. But I've been doing this since 2016. please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. You can get a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration of C60 on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. Go to my store and get the high quality supplements, slow down the aging process, and boost up your immune system. And you're going to need to boost up your immune system during the fall and the winter season. And C60 will help you with that. Plus, during the fall and winter season, you start to, if you contract something, you're going to be building up more free radicals and more stress in your different tissues, and this will reduce that stress and reduce those free radicals. If you notice that people that chronically get sick, they age faster. And I just explained why. It creates more stress and more free radicals. You want to reduce that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's really simple. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg here.
On short notice, we say we need a really smart voice on breaking news. And the dude's one floor down from where
I know.
How lucky.
Wait, so how do I pronounce it? Amici or Amici Curie?
I go amicus.
I say amicus or amici.
Amici, okay.
But, you know, potato.
I had 8 years of Catholic school. I think I'm the aficionado.
I think you are, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you should know.
I know. Well, the only thing I know about Latin is you just pronounce every single letter as you see it, and then you can speak it just fine. So you walk in,
You want to conjugate something?
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the dual purpose deodorants that I have for males and females. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, or in citrus. These are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. You use it as a deodorant every day, but it will also help to detoxify your body. Super important. Has no aluminum, no baking soda, all natural ingredients made from the Himalayas, essential oils from the Himalayas, very high quality. And detoxifying your body regularly is really important for you because it's going to help with your immune system and your endocrine system. And detoxifying your body during the fall and winter season is super important. If you've been paying attention to the wastewater issues and the number of positive cases that are starting to climb in the United States, you better start getting prepared. Another way to prepare is to take lignans and ashwagandha root. Lignans will help with your immune system and your endocrine system. They'll boost those systems. It'll bring down inflammation and soak up free radicals. Super important for that immune system. By soaking up free radicals and reducing inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing plaque. And soaking up free radicals and lowering inflammation at the cerebral level, you're protecting your neurons. Ashwagandha root is going to help to control the cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. Super important to reduce inflammation. That's going to help with your immune system, your vascular system, and your cerebral system, brain function. Remember, it's really important to keep inflammation down systemically, including your cerebral system, to maintain those neurons. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, let's listen into the Hill. They're commenting about Don Lemon, about Pete Hegseth. So let's see what's going on here.
Walking is everything to me. Hip surgery became unavoidable.
Deborah and I, we just connected. She found comfort in no.
A few months ago, I was at the White House when President Trump announced his Liberation Day for America's trade policy. It was a landmark day. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing a series of changes for the military personnel that he says will raise the standards of combat troops and free commanders from the fear of violating internal military rules.
You may remember Secretary Hegseth called hundreds of the nation's highest-ranking military leaders back to Quantico last week to speak to them, but went a different direction than most probably expected. A large part of Hegseth's speech was dedicated to prioritizing physical fitness and, well, being well-groomed. even if that meant fewer women in combat roles.
If the Secretary of War can do regular hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. When it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it.
The military's internal complaint and investigations process will be overhauled to eliminate frivolous complaining.
We are overhauling an Inspector General process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells.
Hegseth also defended several high-profile firings and ended by saying that if the changes bothered anyone in the room, they were free to leave. They should resign.
After Hegseth's speech, Trump took the stage where he called on his top generals to use American cities as training grounds for their troops and suggested that they should use violence against protesters.
We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military, because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor. People are standing, their mouth is this far away from their mouth, and they're spitting at him, and they're screaming at him. And that soldier's standing there, he wants to knock the hell out of the person, but he's not allowed to do anything. So they just stand there and they get abused. If it's okay with you, generals and admirals, I've taken that off. I say, they spit, we hit. Is that okay?
Of course, reaction was swift following Hegseth and Trump's speeches. Independent journalist Aaron Rupar calling Trump's speech a, quote, major escalation in a post on Blue Sky, writing, quote, hard to imagine how anyone with a shred of dignity can keep serving after this, which of course is the point. Meantime, Don Lemon appearing on Dan Abrams' show yesterday, calling out Hegseth for railing against DEI in the military.
In his definition and the Trump administration's definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Pete Hegseth is a DEI hire. Pete Hegseth is not qualified for that position, and he shouldn't be in that position, so therefore it's...
The only thing that qualifies him to be the Secretary of Defense is the nomination process and the confirmation in the Senate. That's it. That's it. If he's confirmed in the fucking Senate, he is qualified. This is bullshit with Don Lemon promoting this homosexual DEI agenda.
Very tough for me and many people in America to take him seriously about anything.
What are you talking about? I've listened to his whole. I played it yesterday and also listened to other parts of the speech, almost all of the speech. And the thing, and parts of Trump's speech. The thing is that he's right. Pete Hegseth is right. We got bad generals. Not only that, we got generals that are on the take. Meaning, by the time they retire, they're going to get these golden parachutes by being talking heads on CNN or working on Raytheon's board, doing book tours, getting speaker fees from CSIS, all this stuff, all right? And all they do is to get fatter and fatter and fatter. And the last time I looked, what fucking war did we win in the last 50 years? What war? Didn't win Vietnam? we didn't win. We didn't fully win the Gulf War. We stopped. We pushed the Iraqi troops back into Iraq out of Kuwait, but we didn't go to Baghdad. So we didn't win the war there. What about right after 9/11? Did we win Afghanistan? Did we win Iraq? Did we win Syria? No. What fucking war since I've been born have we won? But you got a lot of fucking generals that have a lot of fucking medals and getting a lot of weight. No, they're on tape. You know, the thing is, Pete Hegseth is right. You know, if you don't have a fighting force in your military brass is out of shape. You know, if your fighting force and your military brass is out of shape, then how are you going to be a lethal force? And then there's a perniciousness because of this DEI stuff. You know, we need to win wars. We need to have a lethal killing machine, especially as we move towards conflict in the Pacific. Because if we lose the Pacific theater, our lifestyle in the United States will drastically diminish. Now, are we going to be a rising empire, a rising hegemonic power, or are we going to be a declining one? And DEI and fat generals are of the persuasion of a declining empire. No, let's listen to the genius, Don Lemon.
A gem.
Useless person.
It
was.
was.
Who cares about it all?
He's a sack of
Yeah,
shit.
he's doing pretty good. He's over 900,000 subscribers now on his personal YouTube. He's in DC asking the tough questions back to his journalism roots. And he's having a good time doing it and growing his own media company. But irrelevant or not, 900,000 people agree that he's not. Separate from that, I think that this speech from Hegseth and Trump was incoherent, rambling, and just downright confusing. I think that the way that they attacked the military, it seemed more like a campaign rally and kind of...
I mean, what school did you go to, honey? I listened to the speech. He didn't ramble. He was right on target. He made it very clear that the status quo in the military is over and that people need to start shaping up and being able to do their job. And he had this phrase, it's colorblind, it's gender neutral, and it's merit-based. You gotta do the job. If you can't do it, get the fuck out. And oh, by the way, if you're out of shape, get in shape or get the fuck out. I think he's absolutely right on this. See, you know, the thing is that we've had a coddled generation that didn't win wars, but we've spent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. We should hold these generals accountable. If you lose a war, you get shot in the head. You know, these generals need to win, not get participation medals for losing.
Yeah, get rid of your beards if you have hair. Like some people grow their hair because it's a family thing. Some people like attacking the way you look, attacking women in that, saying, "Oh, get out of these roles. You want to serve our country. You don't belong there. You're not attacking." Saying that.
Wearing your beard like, you know, you're some Mohammed. No. Part of the reason for shaving and keeping your hair short is because of hygiene. And it's easier to keep, especially if you're in a battlefield. No, it's time. You know what I'm noticing in society is that there's a laziness, there's an intellectual laziness. People don't know how to dress, people don't know how to talk. People have a bunch of tattoos. They look like shit. They literally look like shit. They literally smell like shit too. You know, it's time for the United States and its citizens and its members in the military to shape up. shape up. You know, what was some of the rhetoric about the shutdown, the government shutdown? Oh, healthcare costs are going to go up because the provisions for some of these plans that were tied to the Obamacare are going to lapse, and blah, 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 blah. The real answer to healthcare is to get healthy. How do you get healthy? How do you get healthy? You eat right. You get enough sleep. It's a holistic approach, proper diet and exercise and supplementation. It's lifestyle. 3 of the biggest diseases in the United States: diabetes, cancer, heart disease. The far majority are self-induced. The far majority. So if someone says, oh, I'm on beta blockers and I have to take metformin and oh, I have to take a statin and, and all this stuff. No, look in the mirror, bitch. It's self-induced. Get in shape and lower the healthcare cost. If everybody did that, we'd be saving tens of billions of dollars a year in healthcare. Tens of billions. So we wouldn't have to have this conversation in the Senate during the shutdown. Why? Oh, it's easier to pop a pill. Oh, don't tell the patient that it's your fault, even though it is their fault. No, Pete Hegseth is right. Our military has drifted away from its core mission and has failed. Now it needs to drift back to its core mission and win. Now, if that means shaving your fucking beard, losing the weight, and stop having participation medals so we win, then I'm on the side of Pete Hegseth.
Very much it was a condescending. It was very much a condescending thing, especially attacking our country. President Trump called it a war from within. And so the fact that you're talking about Chicago and using it as a training ground I ought to hit them, like, this is very childish and asking.
I can't even walk away and listen to this bitch without having a heart attack. The war within is twofold. The deep state that's trying to force globalization and reduce our constitutional republic and circumvent the voter, because the deep state's not voted in. So that's one aspect of the enemy within. The other aspect of the enemy within is this Marxism, this ultra-liberalism that's just destroying the country. It's destroying the country culturally, and it's destroying the safety fabric of our inner cities. So those are the 2 areas that need to improve. Now, are we supposed to just let it keep on going? Is that the answer? Is that the answer, to just let it go and let our country fall? Or do we actually say, Mayor, Mrs. or Mr. or Mrs. Mayor in Democratic town, clean up your city or we're coming in to do it for you. You got 10 days. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it? They've had plenty of time to fix the issue. And if they can't fix the issue, then someone else needs to do it for them, because obviously they're too stupid to do it. So those are the enemies within. The Marxism that is being promoted in this country. Look at Mamdani, the democratic socialist. Marxist.
The people who actually lead major wars are in position to be able to do that, to go have war within our country and within our major cities, is kind of absurd. I think it should be to any American to have our president standing up there and saying, yeah, practice here for what we do internationally.
Our inner cities are shitholes. It's time to clean it up. It's time to clean it up.
And then the whole joke about it, with Hegseth saying mess around and find out. You guys know the analogy. I'm not going to say on air, but like making jokes at the time about how much we're going to be hard on people and be fighting. Like, after we just changed this thing to the War Department, it just seems very much anti everything that America it stands for, from fighting internally and also trying to be more war prone outside of the U.S. when most people in the country want to be less involved in the international complex.
So there are things he said and things Trump said, excuse me, that I agree with and things I don't agree with. In terms of women in combat roles or trimming your beards, being in better shape, I support all of that. We should have the most effective fighting force that there is. The standards should be objective, exactly like Pete Hegseth said. If you can,
are you ineffective with a higher hair? Are you ineffective with a beard?
They shave your head in the military. It's part of the ethos of it is you're not an individual. You're part of an elite fighting
There's
force.
two reasons. It's a psychological reason, so you're not individualistic. You are in a unit and you work as a unit. That's one aspect that he's right. The other is hygiene. It's hygiene, especially in a battlefield. So no, you got to shave your fucking face. Gee, I mean, I just, the ultra liberals have fucked this country up so bad that the only way to fix it is to push them out.
So they discourage superficial individual expressions. You want to express yourself as an individual, the military might not be the right place for you. That's what he's saying. That's in keeping with military teaching and training. That's fine. I don't object to any of that. I think that's great. I think the emphasis on physical fitness is great. The holding generals to the same standard, great. All that good. What I like less is some of the rhetoric from Hegseth is a little bit of this kind of tough guy, I can do more push-ups than you sort of thing that I just find.
And I like to see him go through the training. He's like, oh, I can do it. And
well, he can do it. He's in good shape.
Well, yeah, I see good shape. I like to see
you can do the Hegseth check.
Yeah,
see him do
what Don Lemon brought up was a good point. He's never been in military contact.
I don't believe it.
He's never been in a military situation at all, like as far as leadership.
Hegseth?
Yeah, Hegseth has never had an active military positioning. He doesn't know how to go fight combat anymore. I don't think
that's not true. He fought in combat and he was a platoon leader. What the fuck is she talking about? Wait, what? He had multiple tours of duty.
News host.
No, he was in the military prior to that.
Okay, well, if he still has the
he was in combat. I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, he was in combat.
Okay, fine. He was a combat veteran ages ago. So let's say he was, but his latest job was a Fox News host. So if he still has those same skills and it comes back to this position, and he's
wait, let me get this straight. So if you're multiple tours of duty in a combat zone, and then you become a Fox News host, then that totally abrogates your military experience. This is classic ultra-liberal stupidity. This is what I mean. They eat their tail.
For 3.4 million personnel and for a military and leading them this erratically, I think that would be uncomfortable to think that anybody who has that lack of experience or such a history of experience, but most recently you were a television host like you and I, telling people what they should do for the future of our country under an erratic leader who's telling people to punch people in Chicago. I think that's all a recipe for a disaster.
I don't want to consider domestic crime to be a war like an invading force, because I think that gives the government too much leeway to misbehave, and there's just kind of a. So yeah, I agree with parts of it. I disagree with parts of it. I'm not sure it was necessary to bring the whole military here, but
and we paid $6 billion to do that.
Standards for performance is fine. We're not going to make it so you only have to do 6 push-ups if you're overweight or different or female or whatever it is. It's just whoever can pass it can be in the military. And for combat roles.
And do you agree that millions of dollars, I think last night it was estimated $6 million to bring the troops there to tell them cut your beards and shave your head and also fight in Chicago? That was such a waste. No, the advice plus the $6 million to do it.
Well, we could have done it on.
Yeah, they could have done that in Zoom. That was a ridiculous show.
What it was, because there was more to it. It wasn't just shave your beard. It was about having a well-defined military and improving on its mission statement to be able to be a winning force on the battlefield. And believe me, $6 million is well worth it when you compare it to the ineffective trillions of dollars that has been spent since 9/11. Trillions. I don't know, like $6 trillion, something like that, in the Middle East. since 9/11. What? What? We have a 26, 22, maybe $23 trillion economy. $22 trillion economy. And they spent $4 to $6 trillion in the Middle East. Now you wonder why there's inflation. Now you wonder why there's problems. Because we could have used that money and invested in our infrastructure, invested in our homeland, instead of blowing up the Middle East and not getting anything out of it. But we got a lot of generals that have fucking medals for participation. No, spending the $6 million and saying, get your fucking shit together, I think is well worth it when you compare it to the $6 trillion that we've spent.
For the campaign,
I'm all about saving money, so we can go it that way.
A new AI action is sparking outrage among actors in Hollywood. What they say about it devaluing their profession. We'll be right back after this.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the complete multivitamin. This has the multivitamins that are used as cofactors for enzymatic activity so your cells work properly. This is the foundational piece of my healthcare protocol. Take this every day. This is easy to digest. Take this multivitamin every day to help with your enzymatic activity. And also stack it with the probiotic. You can get it in VeggieCap form or in powdered form. Both are very high quality probiotics. And a good probiotic is going to improve your gut biome, allow you to absorb your nutrients easier, improve your mucosal lining, increase the IgA antibodies, improve your immune system, reduce the chances of leaky gut syndrome, and improve the communication between your gut and your liver and your gut and your brain. You'll be able to sleep better. You're going to be detoxifying your central nervous system. You're going to be able to consolidate memory, and you'll be well rested. It also, over time, will improve your skin. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotic. Good health starts at the gut. So get these probiotics, stack it with the multivitamin for the proper enzymatic activity, and that's the foundation. Then you take the 4 different pillars on that foundation. The first pillar, the max 35 or the cleanse to boost up that immune system. The second pillar, C60 to soak up those free radicals. The third pillar, ashwagandha, turmeric, and lignans to improve your immune system, help with your cardiovascular health, and help to protect your neurons. And Boomer Boost to rev up that metabolism and increase your energy levels. Now, if you pay attention to what I just mentioned as the protocol, that targets all of the major points of aging. And when you do this regularly, you're slowing down the aging process. Now, you can boost it up by stacking some other things with it. But the thing is that if you take that protocol and do it every day, you're going to be slowing down the aging process. Now, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Let's go back to Bloomberg because the House Dems are taking questions amid the shutdown.
Talking to us, then they must have a plan. They need Democratic votes in order to fund government. So it is on them to engage us, talk with us, show up to work, cancel your vacation, come to work, talk with us. We've been having these conversations, we've been pushing to engage since March, by the way, a CR that we didn't support as well. And we have been saying loudly that we have huge concerns from the rescissions that Donald Trump and his administration have executed to not spending resources that Democrats and Republicans have allocated. We've been telling our Republican colleagues for months, these are concerns of ours. And we have told them, work with us, talk with us. And all we got were partisan bills because Speaker Johnson is just interested in being the chair of the Republican conference. He isn't interested, apparently, in being the Speaker of the House and passing things with 218 votes that can become law. That's what he could be focused on, but he's not. He is simply focused on doing what his conference wants, trying to keep them together. It's a shame because as a result, this is what we get. Vice Chair said it, they're day one here, and it could have gone a different way, but that's not what House Republicans want.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. You guys have over 200 Democrats in the House. We only lost one vote on this continuing resolution. One vote was on it. Yesterday, before the shutdown even started, Senate Democrats lost 3 votes. Are you worried that as this goes on, we can see a repeat of the CR earlier this year and Senate Democrats?
It's a question for the Senate, but I will tell you, each of those senators who voted yes, all of them have said Republicans need to come to the table. Republicans need to negotiate. Republicans need to help avoid the healthcare crisis that they have created. Look, I understand the question, but there is unity in message and what we want. That Republicans need to come to the table. Any one of those senators would agree, and many of the senators who voted no on the CR would say the same thing.
Thank you. In the past, in shutdowns, we've seen both sides come together and pass certain measures that would fund military members so that they don't go without pay. I'm just wondering, is there any discussion yet? I know it's early in the shutdown, but is there any discussion about doing any supplemental pieces of legislation like that? And I guess part two, more broadly, Republicans will be back in the House next week. Is there any discussion yet about at least coming to the table and starting a negotiation?
Well, in order to come to the table, Republicans have to be here. They're not here. They're scattered across the country, across the world, maybe on some trips, on vacation. We're here, ready to work, and that part's unfortunate. We want to avert the healthcare crisis that we know is coming. I appreciate you asking about possible legislation. The majority controls the floor. If Republicans want to put pieces of legislation on the floor, they can next week. We are saying, let's avoid this shutdown. Let's end this. And let's have conversations about what's necessary to fix this healthcare crisis that you've created. But we're not going to take pinky promises like Speaker Johnson hands out to his conference, giving them select committees and other things. Like his word doesn't mean much to House Democrats at this point. After backing away from a truly bipartisan CR in December, that's the floor, by the way, of what we need. Democrats and Republicans coming together, agreeing to a continuing resolution. For those of you new to this room, Republicans backed away from that deal, from that bipartisan agreement when Elon Musk.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Fox News discussing about Joe Rogan talking about the far left.
If you shop at Whole Foods or live near one, you need to try this. This is hands down the best seafood I've ever had, and I'm never buying another brand again.
I love it.
So they had a packed house in northern Utah last night. Turning Point USA, returning to that state for the first event since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Long lines stretching outside before the doors even opened. Security was super tight. Thousands packed the Utah State University Stadium. TPA USA contributor Alex Clark, speaking on the reach of Charlie's legacy.
This is the biggest crowd Turning Point USA has ever pulled on a tour. We are witnessing the most powerful conservative youth movement in the history of America. I love you too. We're a family, aren't we? I'm not here to eulogize Charlie Kirk. I am here to pass the torch on to every single one of you. Tonight, each of us certainly feels the weight of this loss. But what we don't do, what we refuse to do, is bow to despair. Charlie Kirk did not spend his too short 31 years on this earth building a global movement so that it could all fall apart and we could cry over its ashes. He was building something that would outlast him.
Jason Chaffetz was there last night. He was on the panel. We get his observations in a moment. But first, the reporting. Spanish Fork, Utah, Matt Finn is there. Hey, Matt. Good morning.
Hi, Bill. Charlie Kirk was assassinated here in Utah 3 weeks ago today. And shortly after, his widow said
that Charlie's signature speech and debate would not stop on campuses. And last night, Turning Point's tour returned to Utah for the first time. Thousands of people lined up hours before the event began inside the arena at Utah State University, about 2 hours north of where Charlie was shot. Attendees were greeted by heightened security. Everyone went through metal detectors. Charlie Kirk was supposed to be there last night for this stop of his American Comeback Tour that was planned months ago, which is now called This Is the Turning Point Tour. Now, some of his supporters say Charlie's death only expanded his reach, and they're happy. Turning Point is proceeding with campus events.
I just want to continue to learn and grow my knowledge. I think that's what Charlie Kirk stood best for, was his ability to learn. I was hoping that, like, for people that are kind of up in the air and not really sure what to believe in, like, they'll understand a greater purpose of why they're here. Understand that it's not really just about one side or the other side, but it's about God. That's what makes life important, is following Him.
Now, carrying on with Charlie's signature campus debate, a panel of guests, including Utah's Republican Governor Spencer Cox, interacted with the audience and took questions. Governor Cox touched on people like Charlie's shooter, who apparently justified extreme violence based just off speech.
Because someone said something that you don't like, that's violence towards me, which then justifies me being violent towards this person for speaking. And that's exactly what happened in this case. And that is a destructive mind virus in our society today.
A few hours before last night's event, students were evacuated from one building on campus over a suspicious package. A bomb squad detonated a package that was deemed a non-explosive. And moving forward, Turning Point says it's not going to do outdoor events on campuses, at least for now, after Charlie was shot here from a roof. Back to you guys.
All right, we'll wait until the accused is back in court, this time in front of a judge, not virtual, I understand. Matt Finn, thank you. Spanish Fork from again.
And Jason Chaffetz also spoke at the event last night. He gave an emotional account of a phone call that he had with President Trump after witnessing Charlie Kirk get shot.
At the end of the conversation, I said, "Mr. President, how are you doing? You knew Charlie?" He said, "Yeah, this one really hurts." He said, "I don't know that I would be the President of the United States without Charlie Kirk. I really don't know. I know that Charlie was such a good friend, so inspirational, and did more for people under the age of 30 than anybody I've ever seen in our lifetime, and I hope that continues. It's so exhilarating to see so many people here. Just grab hold of that mantle and keep going. Don't ever slow down."
And the Fox News contributor joins us now, Jason Chaffetz. You know, we're 3 weeks from that day, and I'm wondering, since you were there, you witnessed it, you were with your family, and having that chance to be with the crowd last night, nearly 6,000 in attendance last night, according to Andrew Colbert. He put that on X last night, saying that it was like the biggest event. The lines were forming hours before. I'm sure that might not be a surprise to you, but I wonder about your observations since then.
I work 2 jobs, support a family, and drive 3 hours to school. Now funding cuts may keep me from graduating. Is that all you got?
Learn more at indigenouseveryday.com.
This will be a blast.
Since then.
Well, it's not even an election year. I've never seen so many people under the age of 30 fired up and engaged and involved with politics. And when we talked about religion and faith and family and love of country, they cheered. I mean, that's so refreshing. That's something that Charlie was bringing out of the young people.
It's super important. And I'll tell you, I've been saying this for years. It's about God, country, and family. To save this country from ultra-liberals, from Marxists, from communists, from AKA Mondani, from, running for New York mayor. To save this country, you got to get down to the foundation of society, of all societies. It's about God, country, and family. If you strengthen those pillars, your society will move forward and be productive. It's that simple.
And I tell you, that crowd was probably 90+% under the age of 30. And they're fired up. They're excited, and it fires you up too. It was very exhilarating. It could have gone on for hours more, but it was really neat to see. It was really great for the community and inspirational.
It's a great school. I was going to say, my dad actually did a graduate work there at Utah State, and Logan is a great town.
Yeah, good stuff there, Jason. You said last night when speech becomes violent, these people need to be arrested. And I want to play you a clip from Joe Rogan's podcast. He kind of went off. This was yesterday with Rogan.
The fact that people were cheering when he died, normal people, housewives, moms, like people working at banks, people working at various industries, celebrating a man getting shot in front of his kids, in front of the whole world. Let's say, what the is wrong with us? Most people recognize, like, hey, as a collectively, as a society, this is not right. They just got shot in front of the whole world. It's not a thing to celebrate ever.
So you said they need to be detained. Some of them need to be incarcerated when the speech becomes violent. Did you find that those in attendance last night felt like Joe Rogan felt, or were they talking about it that way?
Yeah, I think if Joe Rogan had said that right there, everybody would cheer, because it's exactly right. Everybody's seen vile talk and aggressive talk online. I mean, social media is omnipresent, but there's a difference when you actually advocate for violence. And what's not happening at the federal, state, and local level is people are not being called out, but they're not being detained. I think they should be prosecuted. If you started making examples of some of these people, I mean, you're in the public eye. I'm in the public eye. Just because you're a member of Congress doesn't mean you should daily be on the receiving end of death threats. I can only point in my time to one instance where somebody was arrested and actually sentenced to jail in Florida for saying he was going to kill me. But imagine how many often this happens to Trump and the cabinet and members of Congress and local leaders. It needs to stop, and there needs to be a more aggressive posture in enforcing that law. That steps over the line.
Jason, can I ask you about this? Because the Anti-Defamation League retired for extremist group glossary that included Turning Point USA. We have the headline here. Anti-Defamation League retires glossary of extremist groups after backlash for including Turning Point USA. They had said that he promoted Christian nationalism, and now that phrase is not there any longer.
Yeah, well, you know what? Charlie proudly wore on his sleeve, and I think the 6,000 people that were there last night in northern Utah, they believe in Jesus Christ. They believe in Christian values. And you don't have to be a Christian. You can be Jewish. You can be you can be a Buddhist, for goodness sake. But if you believe in something, as opposed to nihilism, which is affecting the left, then that's actually productive, I think, for the country. Believe it. Charlie referred to it. I think
this is a really important point that Jason is saying. Nihilism. Remember the 3 pillars: God, country, and family. Well, if you're nihilistic, you're going to be not for family creation. If you're going to be nihilistic, you're not going to have a strong affinity for country or for God. Now, if you look at the ultra-liberal agenda, they're about carbon capture, climate change, reduce the population, change your carbon footprint, have more abortions. They don't believe in fetus rights, in utero human rights. They don't believe it. If women have rights under the Constitution, why shouldn't a fetus? I mean, it's the same logic. So the point here is this ultra-left agenda comes from a philosophical point of view that is anti-capitalistic, it's anti-constitutional, it's anti-family, it's anti-religious, it's very much of an idea of we know better and therefore you must be part of the Borg and the collective mind. So it's this battle between individualism and collectivism. It's this battle between thinking positive about the future and working towards that versus trying to just deconstruct human involvement. Got to save the planet. The planet has gone through a lot more than the human species. All right, the planet will survive. There's no doubt about that. All right, the human race may not, but that's because of our own doing. The planet will be fine. Don't worry about the planet. It's seemed a lot worse than the humans. All right, so, but if you really like listen to their agenda, their ESG agenda, and their DEI agenda, and all this, it is nihilistic. So to push back on that nihilism, push back on that philosophical thought, you got to strengthen God, country, and family, and it just resets everything. It resets it, gets back society back on the proper course. Because if you have a society that's nihilistic, why even try? It defeats the purpose. It's just nihilism. And if you look at the philosophical teachings in modern time, especially with individuals that get PhDs in philosophy, which is probably one of the hardest PhDs to get, actually. But the thing is that the PhD in philosophy, a philosopher, the philosophy of philosophy, all right? Most of these new PhDs, they're learning not the classics of philosophy like Plato. Of course, they learn Plato in their core curriculum, right? And the classics, some of the classics of philosophy. But when they're writing their dissertation, it's all about modernism. It's all about relativism. It's all about this, this kind of like garbage philosophy where anything goes. It's chaotic, it's nihilistic, so there's no positivity that's coming out of it. Now you can take philosophy of the new frontiers of philosophy that are being paved by these new minted PhDs in philosophy, right? And you can map it with what's happening in modern art. It's garbage. Even modern architecture is garbage. I mean, look at a classic example is look at the architecture for Obama's library. That's way over budget. Just like everything that the liberals do is over budget. People don't even like it. It's a monstrosity. But that's architecture. It's modern architecture. It's garbage. It's garbage. It's not. You go back to like the Baroque period, or you go back to some of these really interesting architectures. It's way different. The ornamentation is different. But there's a soullessness now in architecture, in modern architecture. There's a soullessness in modern art, and there is a soullessness in modern philosophy. There's a soullessness in this nihilism. They're all connected. They're all connected. And the only way to stop it and to prevent the de-evolving of our society is to strengthen God, country, and family. Now, here's the problem that I have with Charlie Kirk and the whole Turning Point movement. They are right to strengthen God, country, and family. And I've been saying this for years. But they also need to understand that the First Amendment, it's not just freedom of speech, it's also freedom of religion. And it's freedom from religion. No one has a commanding height of religion. And when you start to proselytize too much, that is the very reason why the country moved away from religion. And this needs to be fully understood. People that are young, they're not smart enough, they're not experienced enough to fully appreciate what I'm saying. But there is a reason why this country moved away from conservatism, away from individualism, and moved towards collectivism and a liberal mindset. And that was too much parochial thought and not fully appreciating freedom of religion and from religion. So you over proselytize, you will lose on the battlefield.
And we're all going through that in some degree. But the people that have nihilism, that don't believe in anything, those are the people that we really need to worry about.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for being there last night and sharing your reaction with us today. Nice to see you.
I'm Steve Juicy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most.
Unfortunately, the ones that are conservatives, and I consider myself a conservative. I'm a Republican. I am a capitalist, right? But I do have the wisdom to realize that there was a reason why conservatism started to lose ground in the United States. And it's because of its parochial stance and the over-proselytizing of the evangelical aspects of their religion on American citizens. It's really important. Now, people that are religious, they would go, oh, that's blasphemy, Dr. Paul Cottrell. I don't really care. That's what happened. That's what happened. The pendulum moved away from conservatism towards liberalism because of over-proselytizing. So be careful. Be careful. Freedom of religion and from religion is what our Constitution means. All right, let's let me do a product plug, and then we'll go back to Bloomberg here. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Clarity Factor so you're not the stupid ultra-liberal. Clarity Factor is going to get rid of that brain fog. It's going to allow you to think faster, improve your memory, and over time, produce that microenvironment to allow for positive neuroplasticity. When you improve your dendritic connections, you're improving your neural network, you're going to be thinking faster, you're going to have better memory, and you're going to have more vitality as you get older. Super important. Take it every day. Drink it with filtered water. Take Clarity Factor. It's a great neural stack. If you're 40 years of age or older, it's really important to build muscle and maintain muscle mass, or you're going to have problems. If you notice that people that are in their geriatric years that were not athletic, you notice their bones are brittle, you notice they don't have muscle mass, and then they usually have problems with osteopenia and osteoporosis. Guess what? Take Myotrol. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals, and help with gene expression. Super important. And help the health of the mitochondria so you have the energy to maintain and build that muscle. Do resistance training and take the Myotrol every day. This will also work if you're an athlete, younger or older, to help build muscle. And vitamin B complex, super important to take if you're 40 years of age or older. Why? Because the first 4 B vitamins helps the health of your mitochondria. And mitochondria is what generates ATP. When you get older, your ATP goes down. Why? Because your cells and your mitochondria don't function as well. If you improve the health of your mitochondria, you have more ATP. If you have more ATP, your cells start to perform better. Oh, it's a positive feedback loop. Amazing how that works. Now, vitamin B complex also helps with cellular metabolism. So your metabolism will be revved up and you'll lose weight. Your organ systems will start to perform better. And B12 helps to protect neurons. And like I said, there's going to be individuals that are 40 years of age or older within the next 5 years, because of the crisis of 2020, 30% of those individuals that you know that are 40 years of age or older, 30% of them are going to get early onset of dementia in 5 years. In 5 years. So let's just use, just as an example, you'll know people right now that are 40 years of age. By 45, they're going to have early onset of dementia if they don't have it already. And if you don't believe me, start paying attention to people that you know that are in this age category, especially if they have long C from the crisis of 2020. And you're going to start noticing they have speech impediments. They have this in their speech. or they look like they lost the thread of their thought, or having problems writing, or concentration reading. These are all early signs of dementia, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. And I'll tell you what the details are of this. 30% of the people that you know that are age 40 or older are going to get early onset of dementia unless they mitigate. 75% of that 30% is going to have either microclotting or micro bleeding that causes neural death. 24.5 or more percent will have amyloidosis, a building of plaque. Very reminiscent of, let's say, Alzheimer's. But it's a building of plaque because proteins are misfolded and can't be broken down by proteases. Because either the protease mechanism is shut down, or the proteins that are misfolded can't be broken down with the current proteases that are in the neuron. And less than 1% will be prion disease. Now, that's a lot of people in the country. So you have a combination of individuals that have dysregulated immune systems because of the crisis. You have individuals getting turbo C because of the crisis. You have individuals having cardiovascular issues and myocarditis because of the crisis, and now early onset of dementia. So you better start paying attention to me, because I'm not wrong, and I'm the most comprehensive and most accurate when it came to covering the crisis. Nobody comes even close. Nobody. Now, I know that's a very boastful statement, but it's fucking true. 30% of the people that you know that are age 40 or older are going to get early onset of dementia. Better start preparing. Go to my store and get ready.
How much does nuclear provide today in the U.S. versus where you think it might be in 25 years?
Yeah, so today it's a little bit below 20% of the grid,
okay.
Which we're saying will return to about, in our base case scenario, 20% of the grid by 2050. That may not seem like much, 2 percentage points, right? But it will equate to or amount to a $350 billion investment to get there. So those are big numbers. And in addition, we're talking about adding 60 some odd gigawatts to the grid, and you can think about each full-size nuke being 1 gigawatt. So that's basically building 60 generating units as our base case. So those are big numbers to get you from 18 to 20% over a 25-year period of time.
I tell you, I went in this report that you and your team put together, Section 5, small modular reactors. That's where I wanted to go to, because we've had some people come into the studio over the last few years and just talk to us about the science and the engineering and the possibilities of these small modular reactors. Tell us what they are, and what role they could play going forward.
Yeah, so really, these are, and none of these have been built in the U.S. yet, right? So this is very much an emerging technology play. But basically what you're talking about is taking a full-size nuke, you drive down the highway, you see a big cooling tower, bunch of smoke coming out the top of it. These are much, much smaller, okay? And so the idea here would be that these are much more flexible. And so if you have more disparate data centers located throughout the country, you can power these ostensibly with these smaller units, right? And we're talking about, some of these are smaller versions of what's already in operation today, which is a light water reactor. And then some of these types of units are different types of technologies. You have gas-cooled reactors as opposed to water. You have molten salt-cooled reactors as opposed to water. And these use different types of technologies, different types of fuels, still remain to be licensed and proven. So a lot of it's very much on the come. But the technology in each of those areas holds promise. So we'll see, and each of them has pros and cons, right? And so we'll see over the next 5 years the technology shake out and see which ones end up being at the top of the stack for the U.S. But each of them have a lot of money behind them and a lot of support from a lot of deep-pocketed players.
Talk to us about this Trump administration. What is its view on nuclear fuel as an option?
Okay, so firstly, very positive. They came out with a bunch of executive orders in May where they have clear support. They're trying to streamline the licensing process. So these things they basically want to see 10 reactors in construction by 2030.
Okay, wow.
Okay, so yeah, and that's 5 years from now. It seems like a long time, but in nuclear world where it takes 10, even 15 years to build a reactor, which is what it took to build the only reactor that's been built in the U.S. in the last 30 years, took 15 years to build. That is not that long a period of time.
Yeah. All right, folks, listen, I don't know what your politics are or how you think about it. As I talk to these experts here, it just feels like from an energy sourcing perspective, everything's got to be on the table. If you listen to some of the experts talk to us about the need for energy going forward, it just feels like everything needs to be on the table for discussion, including nuclear power. And that's why this report from Bloomberg Intelligence is really, really prescient and really detailed and provides, I think, a really good understanding of what the opportunity is from an investment perspective. So check it out on the Bloomberg terminal. BIGO, and that's where you find all this great research. Scott Levine driving the team there at Bloomberg Intelligence. We appreciate that. All right, for our listeners in the U.S., a reminder, you can listen to us via satellite radio on Sirius XM Channel 121. Access the world's only global audio business network, coast to coast, 24 hours a day. And stay with us. Your top stories in global business talent.
I'm against nuclear power. Why? Because if there is a mistake, if there is a leak, it's catastrophic. Even though it's low probability, it's high impact event. And this impact event lasts for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I'm against nuclear power. I'm also against nuclear weapons because, we shouldn't be under the Damocles of any government at any hour of the day where we can be radiated. So, we should solve this problem and not have nuclear weapons. Now, in terms of even if you can build a safe nuclear plant, what do you do with the radioactive material, radioactive waste? And we're not just talking about fuel rods that can be reprocessed. We're talking about wastewater. We're talking about bolts and metal and gloves and boots and all of the waste that builds up over years of running that plant that eventually will be decommissioned. Now, we have a mountain that's supposed to store all this stuff, but no one's willing to transport it on a rail system just in case there may actually be an accident and radiates the town. So it's a big problem. So why not just not have it? Unless there's technology that I do not know of that can reduce or eliminate the radiation of these materials, neutralize it. I don't think we have any real technology to reverse the radioactiveness of a wrench, right? So in theory, you should be able to do that, but I don't think in practicality we have it. So maybe we shouldn't be playing around with this type of technology, with fission reactors. Now with fusion reactors, that's a different story. But that's still years away. But they're getting closer to having fusion reaction. All right, so that's my take on it. Now, just to remind the audience, I have Substack and TikTok that you can follow me on. So the links are in the description of this video and all my videos. I'm live streaming on Rumble, on YouTube, and on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please click the link of the video to go to TikTok and subscribe to me and my Substack. I greatly appreciate it. All right. Before we go to the next video, please go to my store and get this NeuroStack. Like I said, it's really important to protect your neurons. I told you why. It's, a lot of people are going to have neurological problems. Early onset of dementia or Parkinsonian shakes, gait issues. So you want to protect your neurons. Now, there are different ways to stack supplements to improve neural health. NAD+ boosts up your NAD plus levels, increases your energy, repairs your DNA damage, and protects neurons. So take NAD plus, especially if you're 40 years of age or older. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can purchase. There's nothing better. Most people that take CoQ10, you're probably taking the wrong kind. Ubiquinol is the best. You can't get anything better. Now, ubiquinol is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals, so that's good for just slowing down the aging process. But it also helps the health of the mitochondria that boosts up the energy levels, so you have more ATP. Hence, it helps you slow down the aging process, especially in the neurons, and it helps to protect your neurons. Stack it with the NAD+, and you can also take it with the Clarity Factor, or C60, as a super stack for your neural health. Please go to my store, use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, you get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. And guess what? You're going to need that free gift because it reduces the severity of what's coming in the fall and the winter. All right. Let's listen into CNBC about the Supreme Court saying that Trump can't fire Lisa Cook. Come on.
Getting some breaking news on the case regarding Fed Governor Cook. Let's get to Eamon Javers. Hey, Eamon.
Carl, that's right. The Supreme Court is saying it's going to have arguments in January of 2026 on this case involving Lisa Cook and the Federal Reserve. Remember, the president's been trying to push her out with allegations of mortgage fraud. A lower court stay on the Federal Reserve Board while the case was pending. The Trump administration filed asking for a stay of that decision. They wanted to fire her immediately. And in this new order, just released within the past couple of moments, they're saying the application for a stay presented to the Chief Justice and by him referred to the court is deferred pending oral argument in January of 2026. So that means the Cook will be able to stay on the Federal Reserve Board through those arguments in January of 2026 and then pending the outcome of this case ultimately. So a defeat here for the Trump administration, a win for Lisa Cook's legal team, but it does not mean that she is necessarily out of the woods here in terms of this argument, but it does mean we should see the Supreme Court take this up in January. Back over to you.
So what happens between now and January? Do we know? Is this punted to another court to look into these allegations, or it's in the hands of the Justice Department?
There is no other court other than the Supreme Court, right? That's as far as you can appeal. So it's going to be up to the Supreme Court to adjudicate what happens here. But that won't happen until these oral arguments, which they're saying in this order just released, will happen in January of 26. So between now and then, it's status quo, right?
It's not on whether he's allowed to fire her.
Right. I mean, presumably on the fraud allegations, the Trump administration is going to continue to dig to look for evidence to back up their case that she committed fraud, and her legal team will continue to dig to find evidence that she didn't commit fraud. So that discovery, that investigation will be ongoing, and you might get leaks out of that process during the months to come that will be embarrassing for one side or the other. But ultimately, this is going to be up to the Supreme Court. That's the highest court in the land, and they're not going to take it up until January.
Yeah, all right, so between now and then, Lisa Cook stays on the Fed. Let's bring in Steve Leisman and find out what the implications of that are. Steve, she's not going anywhere.
She's not going anywhere, and it's deferred, David, until January, when, of course, the Fed itself will undergo a bunch of changes. You'll have new presidents come in to govern, and also you'll have that Stephen Myron Fed governorship come up again. So there'll be additional changes, but at least it seems through the October and the December meetings, which are the two remaining ones for the year, there'll be stability, and we won't be reporting ahead of the meeting that we're not sure how many people will be voting as we did for the September meeting. So there'll be some stability on the board through then, and then they'll undergo some changes. What's interesting then, by the way, is in February, I believe, it could be March, the Federal Reserve Board will vote to reappoint the presidents. And this is where it's key. If the president and the administration, David, want to make that change on the Federal Reserve among the Federal Reserve presidents, they need a majority of the Federal Reserve Board. Unclear at this point. I'm reading this very short order, but the stay is deferred pending established weekly schedule for Advocate Bureau to select meeting, pending oral argument. So maybe it can be decided in January, but maybe perhaps after that.
Right, Steve. Yeah, I mean, it can sometimes, you can have a significant interregnum between when the case is argued and when you hear from the Supreme Court.
Right.
But sometimes they can do it in much more a quicker fashion as well. Steve, while we got you here, just in terms of, reaction to the ADP number this morning and the likes and what we can expect given where the Fed is right now, and obviously given that Lisa Cook will remain one of the members.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with ADP is always that it's not very good on a month-to-month basis, but when you take a step back and you use 3-month averages compared to the BLS, along with the BLS revisions, and then even 1-year averages, it's a much better indicator. It's why I'm not very concerned about not having Friday's jobs numbers, or even another month, but over time, you lose contact. Now, ADP, of course, we benchmarked its numbers this year, so that caused a downward revision, but according to ADP, we're in negative territory when it comes to the jobs report. And you saw what happened to the bond market, a big rally there, as well as in the Fed funds, where now there's a lot more confidence in an October cut and a December cut as well. And they're working on a third cut in January or March as well. So all of this is telling the market that the Fed is going to be more concerned about jobs, or increasingly concerned about jobs, relative to the concern about inflation that it has been.
Yeah, and of course, when it comes to jobs, we are at this point certainly not likely to get the jobs number on Friday, given the current shutdown. Steve, thank you. Steve Leisman, of course, reporting along with Amy Jabbers.
Okay, I'm gonna play a video by Fox Business about grand conspiracy with the Comey investigation or indictment.
Welcome back. As expected, the government officially entered a partial shutdown last night at midnight after Democrats and Republicans failed to agree on a funding bill. The Senate missed the 60-vote threshold. Democrats John Fetterman and Catherine Cortez Masto and Independent Angus King all voted with Republicans to support the bill and keep government open. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, the only Republican who voted against the bill. An estimated 750,000 federal employees are facing furloughs now. The Senate will try another vote today. One more shot on both the House-passed CR and the version introduced by Chuck Schumer. House Speaker Mike Johnson will join me in the next hour, coming up live on what happens now and whether a breakthrough is still possible. So join us for that special interview. First, though, Arkansas Congressman Rick Crawford is with us. He is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning.
So what does this mean for you with a government shutdown?
Yeah, well, it's I chair the House Intelligence Committee, so I'm concerned about how this impacts our ability to execute the mission. And in the short term, it won't. We've got the ability to continue to do the things that the intelligence community does, protecting the American people. The concern I have is this is a no-fail mission. These individuals are going to be out executing. I'm concerned about their families. I'm concerned about the potential for disruption of their finances and things like this. And the interesting thing is that the Democrats talk about how much they advocate for the workforce, and yet this was their opportunity to advocate for the workforce, and they said no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make a political statement here. And interestingly, the motivation for the political statement is somewhat questionable with Chuck Schumer and AOC, but that's neither here nor there. The fact remains that they have really passed up an opportunity, which they voted for 13 times in the past, and yet they decided to go ahead and shut the government down. I think it's completely irresponsible, and particularly in light of the comments they've made over the years about how irresponsible it is to shut the government down.
Well, I mean, President Trump may use this as an opportunity to cut down government even further and create permanent job cuts. So how significant will these layoffs be, do you think?
Well, it remains to be seen. The OMB director will take that under consideration, and that will be in his wheelhouse to make that determination. But obviously, we could. I'm someone that believes that we probably could cut some of the bloat out of the federal government. I'm not sure this is the appropriate forum for that, because I think it requires a little more study and make sure it's more targeted. But look, what we've done is basically said, here you go, OMB, you handle it. And I say we, what I mean to say is the Democrats, they're the ones that if we had passed the CR, everything would have been fine. We would have had that window to go ahead and get back into our approach process. 3 of those approach bills have already been passed, are in committee, conference committee between the House and the Senate.
Right.
We need to finish 9 more to keep the government funded. So this was a huge mess up on the part of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate.
Wow. All right, we'll be watching all of that. Let me get your take on the other news of the day. Last week, former FBI Director Jim Comey, the first of the Obama-era officials indicted for charges stemming from the Russiagate lie and the investigation. He's facing 2 counts, lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. But former House Intelligence Committee Chairman, your predecessor, and current Trump media CEO, Devin Nunes, told me it's entirely possible that more charges are coming for Comey and more are coming for intelligence officials. Watch this.
Comey has long been a liar, a leaker. He's dishonest. He ruined the FBI. He will be lucky if there is not a grand conspiracy charge brought, which is really what should be brought against probably about 24 characters in the United States over the last 7-8 years.
Should there be more charges against Jim Comey?
Very specific, and it's over whether or not he lied on this one part. The larger part is whether or not you can bring a kind of grand conspiracy case. And, people talk about, there's the law, which is, lying to Congress, lying to the FBI, but there's also a term in there called misleading. And what a lot of these guys did is they made up things using intelligence that didn't exist, but acted like they knew something that actually wasn't there, and they lied and misled the American people. The only intelligence that they had is that the Russians were very well aware of Clinton's plan, and they actually not only thought Clinton was going to win, but likely preferred that she would win. So going back to the cover-up of her missing emails, that, by the way, are still missing, they all got involved in this plan. They all got the FBI exercise.
So, Congressman, you've done a lot of work on this as well, and I want to get your take on the potential for a grand conspiracy charge. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham also said he thinks it's coming. Watch this.
I think it's anything nature I love. That's where I find healing. I love taking care of people. It's just what we do as nurses. I work at United Healthcare, the orthopedic division.
I think obstruction was more than leaking classified information. I think the obstruction includes withholding exculpatory information to the FISA court where he had a duty to do it. I think the obstruction includes lying about the grand conspiracy here. Not only, and I think the obstruction includes not investigating leads that could have exonerated Trump. Yeah. They wanted Trump to be guilty. Every time they had information that it may not be him, they ignored it. I think this is much bigger than leaking classified information. I think there's a conspiracy charge that could be made. Again, he's presumed innocent, but this obstruction goes well beyond leaking information, classified information. I think there was an effort to withhold exculpatory information, not to investigate credible leads that Trump may not have done this.
Mr. Chairman, was this a conspiracy against Trump?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that what you have is at the highest levels, we'll say Director Comey, obviously he was the FBI director, but you have a lot of underlings that went right along with it. But it really goes all the way up to the top. When you talk about the ICA that was requested by President Obama, right. He didn't like the outcome of the election and sought to basically overturn that through some administrative means, using the ICA, which was forced over a 3-week period, using this Crossfire Hurricane, which was implemented at the direction of and with the coordination of then Director FBI Comey. I think both Devin and Senator Graham are right. I think this probably rises to the level of a grand conspiracy, and we'll see those charges. This is not unlike, we went after Al Capone, went after him for tax evasion. We're able to unravel a lot of other things and ultimately find the evidence that we needed to bring him under more severe charges than just tax evasion. That's what's happening here. I mean, you're seeing more and more threads that they can pull on, and this whole thing is going to come unraveled on, I believe, on Director James Comey.
Unbelievable. Biggest scandal anybody has ever witnessed. Just unreal. Real quick, the president announced a tentative deal with Harvard University to restore $2.4 billion in frozen federal money. Harvard will now invest $500 million to launch and run trade schools, ending a long-running clash over affirmative action and discrimination against Jewish students. Your reaction to that?
Well, I'm a big fan of trade schools. We talk about it all the time here at home in the heartland. It's important to us. Career technical education, working the trades. I'm not sure how much faith I have in Harvard to execute on that plan. But, you know, look, the deal's not complete. The devil's in the details. But, you know, Trump's a deal maker, and we'll see if this happens. But let me just say, I love trade schools. I never thought Harvard would get in the game. But, you know, God bless them. I think we need more emphasis on the trades.
Absolutely. We need more electricians right now with this AI huge boom. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Please come back soon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Rick Crawford. We'll be right back.
Alrighty, let's take a look at another video here. But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the D3 and the vitamin K2. Super important. This is a stack that helps a multitude of different systems. If you do resistance training and taking calcium, D3 and K2 will help to build denser bone. Super important. Now, D3 and K2 will also help to pull some calcium depositing around plaque formation at the vascular level and reduce calcium depositing at the vascular level. And D3 and K2 will reduce the severity of what is coming in the fall and the winter. So please stock up on D3 and K2. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. It's all caps, discount 5. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. But be prepared. This fall and winter in the United States is going to be problematic. The better off you are, the less severe it is, long term, the better off you'll be. Okay, with that, let's take a look at. I want to lit this story here about. This is DW on their take on U.S. preparedness. I think this is based on Pete Hegseth's speech. So let's listen to DW.
Before we talk avid Big Ten blood drive ideas, let's get in the competitive spirit with the scavenger hunt. I worked all weekend on that. Save lives and help win your school $1 million. It's okay. It's in your nature.
Oh, come on. Too much.
Experience an empowered ecosystem designed to deliver actionable insights that inspire growth and sustainability so you could see further, innovate faster, accomplish more. That's the Connect effect.
Okay, here we go.
In the US, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has called a rare meeting of hundreds of senior generals and admirals stationed around the world. They'll gather today at a base near Washington. Pentagon has not publicly said why they are meeting, and even the generals haven't been given a reason.
Right. I apologize. This is an older video.
To speak to the assembled officers on a
this is an older video, so I'm going to stop that. Let's listen in to Steve Forbes here.
All right, joining us now, Liz Peak, syndicated columnist, Fox News contributor, and Steve Forbes, Forbes Media chairman and editor-in-chief. You saw the interview. There's lots of other things to talk about. But Steve Forbes, he's a smart guy, Jameson Greer, doing what the president has asked him to do. You're not happy, let me guess, healthcare, pharmaceuticals. You don't like price controls. Gee whiz, that's a shocker.
Yeah, that
Forbes on price controls.
Yeah, well, putting price controls on the pharmaceutical industry just guarantees what's happened in Europe. You get less innovation, which means you're going to have a less healthy future.
But if you build here, if you build a pharmaceutical plant here, like a Tylenol plant, that was a joke, a bad joke. But if you build a plant here,
it gives me a headache.
You won't get the tariff. You won't get tariff.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be dependent on if you need a medication. That shouldn't be. They shouldn't be putting on price control. There are various ways you get plants to locate here, which is part of what they've all done in terms of reducing taxes, in terms of reducing regulations. But this force thing of trying to force a trade, that's going to be a two-way street, and we set a terrible precedent for when the bad guys eventually get back into power. And national emergency. Oh, climate change. We know where that's going to lead. So let's do it by the rule book. If they want a tax, pass a tax in Congress. If they want to put on price controls, do it through Congress.
Aren't our generics much cheaper than anything else on the market? It's a small number that we're talking about here.
It's the nose under the tent.
Yeah.
Almost nose under the tent. We know where it can lead.
Can I disagree with you for once in my entire life? During COVID, we discovered that we are incredibly dependent on China for not only prescription drugs, but a lot of over-the-counter medications that people depend on. And it was appalling to me that having discovered that, the Biden administration did absolutely nothing to onshore pharmaceutical manufacturing. We've got the entire apparatus in Puerto Rico available to regenerate manufacturing here for pharmaceuticals. So with respect, if it takes putting on tariffs, if it takes draconian measures to get pharmaceuticals made in the U.S., I'm all for it.
Trouble is, taxes on rarely come off. And in terms of China, that's absolutely right. And there are ways to get the pharmaceutical companies, which the Biden administration did not do, say, we've got a national security problem here. Puerto Rico used to have very juicy tax incentives, which is why it went great to drug manufacture. Put those incentives back. Puerto Rico needs it. So I've seen this movie before. We can do it here. Just have to do it in a way in which you get real results, and they'll do it more quickly than they will with a gun to their head.
Can I ask you about a separate subject? H-1B visas, big debate. We really haven't had that discussion, H-1B. So $100,000 for new enrollees, not old, but new. Some people are saying there are not enough Americans who can fulfill. This is mostly techie stuff, I take it. But maybe there are enough Americans. I mean, maybe it's a very unpopular thing in New York and Wall Street circles, but maybe Trump is right.
So I would say what we're seeing right now, there are reports coming out of computer-heavy schools that are training computer engineers and so forth, that they can't get jobs. So it could well be that Americans right now are actually becoming available. I did research on this a few years ago when this whole issue of H-1B visas and expanding the number became a real issue. There are an awful lot of Americans who feel that the tech companies took advantage of those visas to pay people less. And it was a very simple thing. Yes. And I think Disney, and I can't remember why Disney was in the mix of this, but there were some big companies that were attacked for having underpaid foreign workers by this route. So if this $100,000 price tag makes that a reasonable kind of calculation, in other words, if you're a company and there's only two guys who can do what you want, and you have to pay $100,000. In tech world, that's nothing. That's a pittance for hiring a high-tech person.
I think it's exactly but lost in the shuffle. And I read, even the vaunted Unleashed Prosperity Hotline. I think they're wrong because they're going to pay these Indians $65,000 a year when the job is worth $125,000 to $200,000 a year. Why not just go to Stanford or Berkeley or all these California schools? There's schools all across. Everyone's teaching technology. Everyone's teaching math. We've learned our lesson. I don't know.
Well, and again, programmers up until now were in short supply. I don't think they are anymore because of AI.
Well, those things change, and we want to have access to the best brains around the world. And yes, there were abuses in H-1B. You fix the abuses if somebody's gaming, and there's certain companies that were gaming it. But you deal with the specific problem. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And in terms of $100,000, who's that going to hurt the most? It's going to hurt startups. They don't have necessarily the wherewithal, the margins to play that kind of game. So get rid of the abuses. Bring in the people who are good, have brains. We want them to stay here. We need all the talent we can get. And even though we have a slowdown now, slowdowns hopefully are not going to last forever. They never do. They never do.
At the stroke of midnight, the government will shut down, let's be. Are you waiting anxiously?
So anxiously.
Is this a big thing? It's going to affect the stock market, the bond market, commodities market, any other market. Is it going to affect any part of American life that you could possibly think of, except they might knock off another couple 100,000 federal workers? They have to get jobs. By the way, they can get jobs at tech companies.
Yeah, so I think it's really hilarious that people are talking a lot about the fact that we may not get the jobs report on Friday, which is a statistic that I find completely questionable. And, if anyone's really making serious decisions based on that BLS, I did say BLS statistic, I would really be surprised by that. But no, I think the Trump administration has made it clear that instead of simply furloughing people, this could be an opportunity to shut down. By the way, some of the hundreds of bureaus and directorates and agencies that don't even meet, that don't have any particular activity. I've gone through and looked at some of these. There are a ridiculous number of outfits in the federal government that do zero.
Schumer is giving them an opportunity to do what they could not do legislatively. That's the thing that blows me away.
Yeah, he was beaten up by the far left when he did this thing in March, realizing what the implications would be. But the really big news tonight, Larry, is the playoffs with the Yankees.
Yes.
You've noticed what happened to civilization since the Yankees last won the World Series in 2009. We've had inflation, we've had wars. We need a World Series win to get the world right. So that's the big event tonight.
It took a while to circle back to that, but good work. You really did a good job on that.
He's always right. He's always right. What's going on?
I'm not a big fan of the Yankees in for baseball. I'm more of a Detroit Tigers guy. But what I have noticed with Harvard football is that they're doing pretty well right now so far. But the season just started. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Gladiator Barley. Gladiator Barley will help to build muscle. What you do is this is a high-density protein. And this will help to build muscle, do resistance training. But it'll bring down inflammation, detoxify your body, and soak up free radicals through superoxide dismutase. So when you're detoxifying your body and bringing down inflammation and soaking up free radicals when you're working out, you're recovering quicker. And you're building that muscle faster. It stacks well with myotrol, which helps to build muscle through the gene expression. As you get older, you don't express your genes as well because of methylation. Myotrol will help with that gene expression. And Gladiator Barley will help to build the muscle because these are the building blocks to build the muscle because it's a high-density protein. But it's not just a regular high-density protein. You can't get this at a regular, let's say, Whole Foods or store. This is very special stuff. So please go to my store, get the Gladiator Barley, do the resistance training. It's a powder. You can mix it with soft foods. I mix it with hummus, but you can also mix it with yogurt or, let's say, applesauce. You can drink it. You can mix it with filtered water. You can mix it with milk or mix it in a smoothie, however you want to take it, but take it every day. And by detoxifying your body, bringing down inflammation, soaking up those free radicals, it's going to help your immune system too, not just build muscle, and help with your endocrine system. Super important. And bring down inflammation. That's going to help your joints. That's going to help your vascular system, reduce plaque formation. And by bringing down inflammation at the cerebral level, you're keeping your neurons healthy. So not only are you building muscle with Gladiator Barley, but you're actually improving brain function. Amazing how that works. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Gladiator Barley, take it every day, build some muscle, especially back muscles. Super important. A lot of people underdevelop their back muscles. But if you develop your back muscles, what's going to happen is that your posture will be better. You'll have denser vertebrae, and you'll have better blood flow from your lower extremities back to your torso. So your venous flow will be better, and your lymphatic flow will be better. Because if you have poor back muscles, as you get older, you start to slouch, and your vertebrae starts to compress. And what will happen is that will impede on this flow of your lymphatic system and your venous system. Well, you don't want to impede it. You want nice flow. So do back exercises to build back muscles and improve your posture. And what will happen is that your vertebrae will be straighter. You'll have denser vertebrae, which is really important, especially when you get into your geriatric years. and you'll have this better flow, this better lymphatic flow. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Gladiator Barley, and take some of my advice on different muscle systems to develop to slow down that aging process. There are little tricks that go a long way, and they're simple to do. It's not like you got to get like thousands of dollars worth of gym equipment. I mean, they're just simple exercises that you can work on different muscles for your back. And not only are you improving your back, but you're also improving your lymphatic flow and your blood flow. And you're reducing the chances of, if you look at people that are older or out of shape, what's one of these common things that they say? Their back's hurting them. Well, why is that? Because they have atrophy in their back. So please go to my store, pay attention to what I have to say, and do this holistic approach. And you're going to slow down the aging process. All right, with that, let's go to the next video. Let's listen into Bloomberg. I think they're talking about Pete Hegseth.
With the military, we have elections in this country. The two top civilians in the chain of command to the warfighting commands is a legislation that I helped write in 1986 when we reformed Goldwater-Nichols laws. And so basically, if it's a legal order, our military understands that they're going to follow the legal orders of the chain of command. And so, we've had a lot of different people serve as Secretary of Defense over the years. We've got a lot of people who served in the White House over the years. And so our military gets used to different personalities. I'm not going to comment on the tone. I think we need to focus on the 10 directives. And frankly, I didn't have a lot that I was concerned about in any of the things that he rolled out. We should make promotions strictly on the merits. We need people to basically be able to be proficient in their military occupational skills. All of those things have been fundamental to the department, now the Department of War, they call it, for all the years that I served in uniform. So to me, I think it was very appropriate to make sure get everybody on the same sheet.
Well, as I said yesterday, General, I need to start doing my sit-ups or I'm not going to make it. It's great to have you back.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is that we have a lot of people out there that are out of shape. And I keep on saying, to save tens of billions, if not $100 billion a year in healthcare costs in the United States, all we have to do is get healthier, change our lifestyle. And lots of people that have diabetes will be reversed. You'll be able to improve cardiovascular health and reduce the prevalence of individuals taking medication for their heart issues. You reduce incidences of cancer. These are huge savings. And all it is just changing lifestyle. If you approach health in a holistic fashion, where it's proper diet, proper exercise, proper sleep, learning new things, reading, writing, talking to people in the real world, having some sort of spirituality or some mindfulness, taking proper supplementation, you can slow down the aging process. It's that simple. And reduce the costs. If people are more healthy, they don't need the health care. So you'd be saving money. Long term, you're saving money. So I don't understand. I literally, it is irrational not to take care of your body. Because you're only hurting yourself. It's going to cost you more in the long run. Now, you may not realize this until all of a sudden you have to be in a nursing home. And then you realize that it's $7,000 a month or more. Plus, other care costs. So, be prepared. If, the more robust your body is, the better off you are. All right. Now, I was talking about Gladiator barley. Now, I also have heirloom barley. Now, heirloom barley is a little different. It doesn't focus on the strength side of building muscle. But what it does focus on is detoxification, bringing down inflammation, and soaking up free radicals. And again, by doing those three things, you're going to improve your brain function. You're going to improve cardiovascular health. You're going to improve your immune system and endocrine system and slow down the aging process. And this is a great way to bring down inflammation and to detoxify your body regularly. So please go to my store and get the heirloom barley. You take it the same way as the gladiator barley. All right, let's listen to Senator Kennedy compare the Democrats to Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
My name is Cecilia. I'm a mom of 2 girls, a psychologist, and I choose to transform my PVC treatment journey with iCurvo.
Can you blame her? Can you blame any of them? That testimony was before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Republican Senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, serves on that committee. Senator, thank you very much for joining us today. You know, just your personal reaction as you listen to these people's stories, sir.
Well, sometimes you forget that behind the sterile crime statistics are flesh and blood. And this lady today reminded us of that. When we have these hearings, we always invite some Republican witnesses, some Democratic witnesses. Good Democratic witnesses always say the same thing, that they don't believe in free will, they don't believe in responsibility, that when criminals commit crimes, it's not their fault, it's society's fault, and they shouldn't be punished. We ought to give them a bunch of money. And they always say the same thing. They're almost like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. They're crazed in their jaundiced point of view. They're a few degrees off bubble. Most Americans, most people with common sense understand that what you allow is what will continue. And the more law enforcement officials you can put on the street, the less crime you're going to have. It's not complicated. Thousands of years of human history prove that. And I don't know why my Democratic colleagues will not accept the reality.
Senator, one of your colleagues, Senator Hawley, had an exchange with a man, Gregory Jackson Jr., who has in the past talked about defunding the police. At one point, he was the executive director of community justice for a group that was funded by George Soros's Tides Foundation. Let's watch this back and forth with your colleague earlier.
I in no way stand with defunding law enforcement.
This is your report, a policymaker's playbook to reduce gun violence without policing communities. After your policies have transparently failed and led to the deaths of millions of Americans, now you say you never heard of defunding the police. Your own report recommends it on page after page after page.
I feel like I'm looking at a two-faced individual because you talk about
oh no, sir. You're looking at somebody who's reading you your own words. You want to invest in gobbledygook and take away money from police officers who actually keep our communities safe. And when you're called on the record,
now let me give you my perspective on this. You know, of course, you listen to this show because there's sometimes I have these really off-the-wall perspectives. All right, but you can learn from it. So I do not know the name of this senator. I think it's senator, maybe it's a congressman, but he definitely served in the military, all right? He's clean shaven, you know, nice haircut, tight haircut, right? And who is he interviewing? Black individual, has a beard, and has longer hair that's braided. Now he's in a suit, you know, this individual that is taking questions from the congressman or senator. I think he's a senator. And what did we hear in videos prior to this one? But how important it is for the military to shave, to get in shape, right? To have a better conduct in society than to look slobby. And we can extend this towards just every other person in society, not just the military. There's a slobification of America where They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to dress. They don't know how to groom. And it's like the broken window theory. If you have too many of these individuals in your society that look like shit, don't be surprised that your town looks like shit too. And smells like shit. So everyone needs to like look in the mirror and like get their act together. But you tell that to someone that is a minority and they think you're a racist. No, push back. The way to save this country, the way to save the United States is to promote conservatism, understand that we're a constitutional republic, that it's about individual liberty, and that there needs to be more affinity towards God, country, and family. But also keep in mind that over-proselytizing any religion is a bad idea, because we have a freedom for religion and from religion. Very important concept that most people don't fully appreciate. Now let's continue.
Senator, your reaction to that?
Well, I know Mr. Jackson. He worked for President Biden. He believes that cops are the problem. He believes that cops are a bigger problem than criminals. He believes that if a cop has to shoot a criminal, it's automatically the cop's fault. If a criminal shoots a cop, though, it's the gun's fault. He's part of the loon wing of the Democratic Party, and they just don't believe in free will and responsibility. And as long as they're in charge, particularly in our large urban areas, we're going to continue to have crime. Look, it's not complicated. A guy in prison cannot shoot your sister. It's just very simple. And I'm all for rehabilitating when we can, but some people are just bad. You have to separate them from society.
Yeah, I just think with this dad, realizing after the fact, after his daughter's horrific murder, that this person had a rap sheet as long as his arm. I want to very quickly, Senator, just give us your recent take on this government shutdown, whether it's going to happen, and what you see at stake here.
We're going to have a shutdown because Senator Schumer and the Democrats want one. It will be further evidence that human evolution is a slow process. There's no reason for the shutdown. What we've asked Senator Schumer and his colleagues to approve is what we've approved 15, 20 times, but they want to shut down because the loon wing of the Democratic Party is mad at Chuck, and Chuck wants them to love him, so we're going to have a shutdown.
Okay. All right. We will watch it unfold. Thank you very much, Senator Kennedy. Always good to see you, sir.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.
Alrighty.
New York 811 presents Don't Dig Up.
All right, let's listen to Sylvester Stallone here. I think he was on Brian Kill Me today.
We love when he's here. I hope he loves when he's here too. Actor Sylvester Stallone, producer I should add to, along with his co-star, I think your initial appearance here, co-star of Tulsa King, the series back for another season, Jay Will. Guys, welcome back to the Fox News Channel and Fox and Friends.
I finally came home.
Right. Don't you feel at home here?
Oh, I do. I seriously, you guys, you have this environment here, really unique. After you do all those other shows, come here, you come to the top of the mountain there. That's right. That's right.
Jay, you were in the green room. I felt like the minute I saw you, I've been friends with you for 20 years.
Hey, it's the familiarity, right? Right. You get there, you like it.
Because, you're the series, of course, I've seen it on television. But, Sly, is it true he's a good guy?
No. He's a miserable bastard.
Right.
I'm tolerant. No, actually, he's very gifted. He graduated Juilliard College acting. He's like a serious pro.
And that helps because so are you.
It does.
So you have this. What is America's fascination with the mob? And what made you think this would work?
What is that about? It's like cowboys, outlaws. Right. There's something about that. I guess, can we dare to say that in each of us there's a little larceny, or like it seems romantic, but it's certainly not. It really isn't. It's a very one-way street. Not many of them survive or whatever, but there's Justice Fest, pirates, all the bad boys through history.
But and with you guys in particular, I see the family aspect along with the criminal aspect, which makes it seem cool. I feel like it's a little Shark Tank. Because you are starting a business after business.
Right. That's very good. It's a snarky Shark Tank is what it is. Yeah, that's one of the key elements, Ryan, is that how do I keep him an underdog? So we always have to invest ourselves in a much stronger villain, much more ambitious villain, and I'm always being basically assaulted East Coast, West Coast, sometimes even within the family, you'll see a little bit this season.
So Jay, do you feel like Hollywood's back? I mean, from the pandemic, everyone hearing that, you know what, no one's going to the movies anymore. What about you? Do you feel like it's coming back, even if it's the streaming world?
I think it's never left. You know, it never went anywhere. I think it's just changed the medium, changed the form of expression. You know,
we've given up on theaters?
I can never give up on theater. It's the core of my existence. I was trained in theater classically, and I think I'll remain in the theater. You know, theatrical actors make the best film actors as well. You can't say the same in the other way.
I completely disagree, but
no. I mean, do you think
I did a lot of stage? I did a lot of stagecoach.
Right. You were the Rocky series was on stage, and I caught up with you there. But do you in your back of your mind when you were making movies, even series, are you thinking this is for the big screen, even if it ends up on the streaming screen?
Yes, I try to take a streaming show, and because I started having features, make it cinematic. They try to expand it. We're always looking, like for example, this season, it's widescreen. In other words, it's 2-3-3. It's like going to a movie theater, seeing wall to wall. You can't get as tight in the close-up, but you get the vista.
Yeah.
I do, and I think people are really getting to know the characters from the top the streaming shows on your channel. Do you realize it's been 40 years since Rocky 4?
You know, you are such a liar.
Right, 40 years.
He meant 4 years.
I mean, even though your build is the same.
Yeah, no, it's not.
You look great.
That's why I layer things, but thanks.
But what do you think about when you think of Rocky 4? It brings us back to that time in America, Soviet Union.
I do. You know, it's because when you're in the midst of the storm, you don't constantly focus on it. I'm always thinking that no one can write their own biography because they're in the middle of the storm. People that are observing you see what's going on in a bigger picture. But with Rocky, I'm writing a book right now on how it all happened. And I'm telling you, Brian, when you go back and you analyze it, it was absolute insanity. It just couldn't happen. And it wouldn't happen again. So it's all these different odd elements of not giving up, not wanting to, or maybe just youthful ignorance. But it's that journey from arriving in New York in 1969 and then 1975, 76. Just that period was one of just, it was quite remarkable. And I think it will be very encouraging to other people that are at that crossroad moment. And we have a few major crossroads in our life. And one of them is, where do I go? What is my choice, my direction? And then you realize that was the wrong one. How do you pivot? Because I had to pivot to writing because I wasn't really getting any acting jobs.
This will be a blast.
Because I wasn't really getting any acting jobs. I was like, your resident mugger. That's like, got a mugger? Yeah.
Gangster, the Wanderers?
Always was.
So the thing is so interesting is I hear when people talk about acting, don't tell me you're out of work. Because they say, Jay, is that if you have an iPhone, you can do a movie, right? Don't wait for that commercial.
Seriously.
You could go out and you could be writing something, doing something. You knew that ahead of time, but you didn't have the iPhone.
No.
Right, Jay? How do you feel about it?
You know, it's funny. Ironically, my first film, It Doesn't Matter by Josh Mann, was shot by an iPhone for 14. And filmed completely on an iPhone, no type of steady cam.
Really?
And it was done, and it got to go to the Cannes Film Festival out of South France, I believe. And, you know, so again, if you can make the work yourself, you can tell the story yourself. It's really no issue to it. You don't need a big old performance or, production behind you.
And that's one of the things that there's so much to respect about you, but the one thing about you take action. So you're not waiting for the call on your phone. You say, I'm gonna write the movie. If you're not gonna hire me, I'm gonna write the movie. Oh, if you're not going to do the movie, I'm gonna find someone to finance the movie. I'm gonna star in the movies, right? And you just said that's what it is. Don't you think that is the American dream? The American dream is the opportunity to be successful. It's not the rainbow.
It is the American dream, and the first thing is you have to be really honest with yourself. Do you think you have what it takes to achieve your goal? If I say, oh, I want to be a basketball player, that's never going to happen. So it has to be within the realm of ability. And the second thing is be prepared to get demolished, and stepped on and walked over and laughed at and ridiculed. That's part of the games.
Every game.
Every game. And so can you take it? That's why I wrote that scene. It's how much you can take.
Right. So we could cut in so many different scenes.
Yeah.
A couple of things. Not that you need another job, but you're a Hollywood ambassador for President Trump. You want to bring the TV and movie industry back to America. How you doing? I hear you guys go to Ireland, Bosnia, Australia. When are you guys going to come back to America? Jay, can you shoot anything outside Tulsa King in New York? I mean in America.
But it's just tough.
It's basically financial. That's what it is. It's not that these people don't want to work in America and sleep in their own beds. They want to. We used to. I loved it. I would go to work 3 miles away. Now you have to go 3, 4, 5,000, 13,000 miles away. It's about money, Brian. It's just about money and how the price of living has gone up, and people have to keep up with their lifestyle. So. Yeah. That's the dilemma. So
have you been working on it? Is there anything you can do?
There's nothing you can do.
Tax breaks?
No, until if there's some kind of government subsidy that would be overwhelming, yeah, you could kickstart things. But there's other organizations that are going to say, what about us? What about us? What about us? And there's just not that much money around. It's kind of tragic because Hollywood is kind of Hollywood if Holly could. It's not there anymore.
Do you feel the same way, Jerry? The Hollywood is not what it was?
I mean, I'm kind of green in the game, to be honest with you. I stayed on the other side of the glass for so long. 3 years ago, I got my first chance, to get on this side of it. So, I can't really speak on the evolution of it as much as more as my experience. I don't think I can't say it changed because I didn't know where it came from.
No, let me tell you, young man, as a pioneer, it's changed radically. Yeah. And I feel bad because, you work so much better when you're with your family, you're at home, and you're in your home state. So I feel bad. A lot of these actors, they don't want to leave, but they have no choice.
Yeah, that's where the shooting is. You've been ahead of the game on fitness. People are talking about stem cells, all this longevity. They're talking, you're not there yet, Jay. But what about the fact they're coming along to some of the things you've been talking about, with RFK's been talking about? You encouraged by the Maha movement, which has no age bracket?
Yes, it's so important because you are what you eat. I know it's an old adage, but you are what you eat. And if people are adding things to your everyday food that are going to detract from your lifestyle, they got to go. And it's amazing how you wouldn't automatically think that, okay, these large conglomerates, you're right, we've been pulling this off for 40 years. We have a terrible problem, health problem in America. Maybe we should switch up. But it's tough. It's tough to break habits.
Finally, this is another success. I mean, you're starting another season on...
This is amazing, actually.
And then, is there going to be a fourth?
Yeah. Wow, no, we're already working on 4.
You're already working on 4?
Yeah. We've got Terrence Winter and the writing group, and I'm trying to get him off.
Right, I know.
He gets shot in the first scene.
First scene.
No one knows.
Right. But, Sly, why didn't you wear what Jay is wearing? You could have pulled that off.
I got this from him. You wore the mesh back.
They're called pajamas.
Right. Look at these pants. Right.
It lives.
He's
Frankenstein lives.
I can fly out a plane and land.
I love it.
So Jay has a unique style. Actually, this works very well for the show too, because he vacillates back and forth between this and trying to be sartorial. And it's good. It's a character.
I don't know what it is, but no matter what character you play, I'm pulling for you. There's a reason behind that.
Let me come over and shit.
Guys, Jay Will, Sylvester Stallone, that's how you say it, right? Stallone?
Stallone.
No, Stallone. My bad. I'm going to fix it in editing.
Stallone.
But fascinating talent, best ever. Thanks so much, guys, for coming in.
You know, you haven't lost the steps since the time you interviewed me on the steps of Philadelphia. So I do, because your exuberance is contagious.
The first time you were shooting Rocky 6, I guess technically with Antonio Tarver, and that you knew my name was one of the highlights of my life.
Stop.
Swear to God. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm Steve Juicy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
I remember when Rocky came out into the movie theater. And, and that whole Rocky series was kind of like impressive. And, the thing is it was about the underdog and rising up. And maybe that's where we're at right now in America, is that there's a lot of underdogs. But America is better when it's an underdog. It rises to the occasion. We don't fail. But we also have to realize that we need to dig in and make it happen. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. The Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients. It's a very comprehensive compound profile that will target multiple systems. It'll help to target your brain function, your heart, your vascular system, your musculature, rev up your energy levels, and rev up your metabolism. By taking this every day, you're also going to help to improve your A1C levels, and you're going to notice the benefits of this within 72 hours of taking this. You're going to have a steady burn of energy and have vitality, and you're going to be wanting to be more active. And that happens within 72 hours. There's no spikes of energy in a crash. It's a steady burn of energy. And over time, you're going to be slowing down the aging process. And by bringing down inflammation and stacking it with the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley, you're maximizing the benefits of this. This is a month supply. Take it every day. It's a powder. Take it the same way as the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. Soft foods, filtered water, milk, or a smoothie, but take it every day. And it's also a great way to lose weight. If you wanted to lose weight, take it for your breakfast or for your lunch, either or, and restrict your calorie intake and do resistance training, some balancing exercises, some cardio. Be a little bit heavier on the weightlifting side, because by weightlifting, you're going to build more muscle and burn more energy. Individuals that only do cardio, it's harder to lose weight, and many people fail at losing weight and they go on a yo-yo diet. So it's better to when you're trying to lose weight, be more focused on the weight training side of it. So Boomer Boost helps to give you the nutrients you need to slow down that aging process, to break down that inflammation, to build that musculature, have the energy levels throughout the whole day, improve your cardiovascular health, help you sleep, get rid of that brain fog, improve your memory, and improve your cognitive function. So it's a dual purpose supplement, very powerful. Take it every day. I wish this was available when I was doing triathlons. If you're an athlete, you should take this for your pre or post-workout fuel source. But if you're not an athlete, that's okay. You'll get huge benefits from this by taking it once a day. And I also have drops and lozenges. The drops are smaller than the lozenges. You get 100 in each bag for the drops. You get 21 in each bag for the lozenges. But this is important to have at work or at home, because the fall season is going to be problematic. The moment you have that throat irritation, make sure you take them right away, and it will mitigate the problem. You can get it in cherry, honey and lemon, and blueberry. You can also get the lozenges in elderberry zinc. Get a few bags for your household, but be prepared for the fall and the winter, because that throat irritation is where it starts. And if you can neutralize it right away, you're mitigating the problem. Super important. Be prepared. Please take my advice. Use discount 5. Get these products in your hand. The moment anyone in your household has that throat irritation, take them right away to mitigate the problem. This fall and winter is going to be problematic, and you need to prepare. Make sure you use discount 5 to save some money. It's all caps, discount 5. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. And that free gift is going to help to reduce the severity of what's coming in the fall and the winter. Trust me on this. Nobody on planet Earth is as accurate about this crisis as I am. All right. Let's listen to Ted Cruz.
Grip, stability, precision. That's the essence of driving. Lawful.
Business owners have to lead by example. Work every day without excuses, with unending energy. That's hard when your accounting and payroll continually fight.
Trump's taking back our cities, and Pistol Pete's running point. I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid.
Let's bring in Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, the Antifa field training manual discusses hurricane transsexuals and orgy safety seminars. Do you know what that means?
Thankfully, I don't. I don't really want to know what that means, but I'll tell you this. Antifa is a terrorist organization. They have been a terrorist organization for years. I have been calling on the Trump administration, the first Trump administration, to designate them as a terrorist organization. President Trump has now done so, and I appreciate that. It's the right thing to do. And here's the critical piece. Antifa doesn't rise up organically. It is paid for, and here's what we must do. Follow the money. How much of Antifa is paid for by Qatar? How much of it is paid for by Iran? How much of it is paid for by communist China? And how much of it is paid for by left-wing billionaires like George Soros and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who also are massive donors to Democrats? Part of the reason why the Biden administration and every Democrat in Congress turns a blind eye to the violence and terrorism of Antifa is the same people writing the checks are writing the checks and funding their campaigns. And so what I have urged Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice to do, what I've urged Kash Patel and the FBI to do, is follow the money, because it's clear. You look at, for example, the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses all across the country. I'm not the only person who noticed that virtually all of the tents matched. I'm not the only person who noticed that virtually everyone was wearing matching orange vests. There is real money, and we need to put the funders of this terrorism in jail. That's how you cut it off at the source.
Yeah, those checks, that's for blood money. The screen showed, I don't know if you could see it, but you saw ICE snipers rappelling down from military helicopters to defend a federal building in Chicago. What does that symbolize to you?
Look, it symbolizes law and order. It symbolizes a return to sanity. God bless the heroes in ICE, the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. God bless the heroes in CBP and law enforcement. And the Democrats have made a decision. It's stunning. You know, when I was first elected to the Senate 13 years ago, both Democrats and Republicans would agree we support law enforcement, we support police. By the way, people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer would say we should secure our borders. The Democrat Party has gone bat crap crazy. They have decided they are for open borders, for abolishing the police, they are for George Soros DAs, and they want to let out of jail murderers and rapists and child molesters. And that's an extreme agenda. Look, Democrats are right now upset that ICE agents wear masks. Why do they wear masks? Because Democrats are calling on them to be doxxed. They're calling on people to target ICE agents and their families. And these guys are heroes. They're taking violent gang members off the street. I'm proud to have their back. And I got to say, the rest of the country is looking at these crazy Democrats who want to fly to Central America and have daiquiris with MS-13 members. And they're like, you know what? I don't really want more gangbangers in my neighborhood.
Yeah, CNN's sitting down with these guys, and they're saying that they're under a lot of pressure after Trump's cranked up the heat. He's cranking up the heat on these fat generals, Senator. Are we going to have less fat generals now at the Pentagon?
You know, I have to admit, I couldn't help but thinking of Sergeant Schultz. If you ever watched Hogan Heroes, as a little kid, I would watch Hogan's Heroes with my dad, and Sergeant Schultz.
Well, here's the thing: is that Ted Cruz, even though he's a bright guy and he's a senator and he's got a lot of experience now and blah blah blah, you know, I believe he was top of his class at Harvard Law. You know, he's not a dumb guy, but he's a fat ass. So here's a great idea. Why doesn't everybody get in shape? Why not? Like, reduce your calorie intake a little bit, you know, do some exercises, get healthy. Why? Why not? This guy has been stuffing his mouth with a bunch of McDonald's. And then we got to come to the realization. I think that HHS under RFK Jr., it's helping. We have to really shine a light on the fast food industry and the processed food industry, because is a big component in disrupting our endocrine system, disrupting our immune system, and slowing down our metabolic processes. And when that happens, you start gaining weight. So we have to, like, not just stop ingesting this stuff, but go after the companies that are actually making people unhealthy. Because healthcare costs are out of control. But, you know, the thing is that Ted Cruz shouldn't be saying too much about fat generals, because we got fat senators, literally. And not only that, he can trade on insider information and make millions of dollars. And oh, by the way, he is going to make millions of dollars in cryptocurrencies. He has money invested in miners and in exchanges and Bitcoin assets. He's a fat senator. So how's that any different than a fat general that's got a golden parachute over at Raytheon? Or is, you know, collecting all these fees by roaming around the whole world for CSIS or the CFR. How's it any different? We got politicians that have been pigs at the trough, and we have generals that are pigs at the trough.
I hear nothing, I see nothing, and you know what? Good for Pete Hegseth for making our military focus on the job of the military as not to be a vanguard for left-wing social change. The job of the military is to be prepared every day to fight and defeat and kill our enemies and to keep America safe. President Trump is focused on that, and Pete Hegseth is a good friend, your former colleague, is focused on bringing back the warfighter culture to the Department of War. I think that's good for America, and I gotta say, I'm hearing from active duty military, they are thrilled to get out of the transgender witch business and to get back in the business of killing terrorists and bad guys.
Yeah, and those guys also need...
Meanwhile, when he gets off of this segment, he's going to reach into his McDonald's Happy Meal bag and then start stuffing a McDonald's hamburger down his throat.
Government gets shut down because the Democrats want health care for illegals. They might miss a couple. What are you hearing about the shutdown?
Look, we're having a shutdown. The Democrats voted to shut the government down today. And they're doing it, on the face of it, they're doing it because they want free health care for illegals. But you know what they're really doing it for? They're doing it because their crazy left-wing base is so angry. A few months ago, when Chuck Schumer and the Democrats agreed to keep the government open, Schumer almost lost his job. The left wing lost their mind, and AOC is breathing down his neck. And so this shutdown, understand, this is a temper tantrum of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats saying, we hate Donald Trump. We hate Donald Trump so much, we're going to shut the government down. We're going to shut the national parks down. Yosemite's going to be shut down. The Smithsonian's going to be shut down. The National Institutes of Health will be shut down. We're going to stop government paychecks. Why? Yes, because they want health care for illegals, but really because they want to say, we hate Donald Trump. And I don't know how long. This shutdown could last days. It could last weeks, because it's a temper tantrum to protect Chuck Schumer's job. And the Schumer shutdown, everybody knows that's what's going on. We'll see how long the Democrats want to shut it down.
All right, we'll be following it, and our hearts go out to those people down in Texas that had to deal with that crazy sniper. God bless you guys and stay safe.
Horrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe. Pete Hegseth is completely right. The generals and the troops need to be in shape to fight a war. We got too many fat generals pushing too much DEI. But you know the problem we also have? We have representatives in Congress and in the Senate that are too fat and that are sucking on the tit of the taxpayers, doling out money to special interests, and taking money from K Street. And then they have insider trading so they can become multimillionaires, like Ted Cruz. So, be careful when the point here, you can agree with what he's saying if you're a Republican, let's just say, but just to realize that he's part of the problem. He is part of the problem. Don't think that Ted Cruz is not part of the problem, because he is part of the problem. All right. That's the end of my show. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you subscribe to all my channels. I also have a Substack channel and a TikTok channel. Help support the work by going to my store and purchasing the great products, and get healthy, slow down the aging process, and be prepared for the fall and the winter. I have lots of products that will navigate you through this. If you've been paying attention to what I've been saying in this video and a lot of the videos that I've been doing for the last year, you will know exactly what you need to do. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.